Okay, well, I did ask, so.
Well, yeah. Okay. Can we stop talking about that kind of stuff?
Yes.
Anyway, so
after the warts fell off...
Anybody see that? Anybody see any good movies lately? Any good genre movies lately?
Ooh, yes, I did. But...
Anybody seen a good genre? Thumbs up for the second Hobbit installation. We were...
Oh, okay.
I'm on board. It has some problems, but spoiler alert: the barrel chase, the barrel ride chase, some of the best action in a fantasy movie you're ever gonna see. It just
really
keeps on rolling. It rocks. It's funny and very. It's like I love big epic movies, and I love trilogies especially. My favorite thing about trilogies are I love to take the second installment of a trilogy, which is arguably the most difficult movie to make, because you have people coming in buying their ticket, and there's a good chance that maybe 25% of these people didn't see the first movie, and oh yeah, by the way, it's not going to end either. So that's a huge challenge for a writer, just to make it interesting. So these filmmakers have to really pull out the stops, and usually some of the trilogies that we think about as classics, the second one is the favorite, like Wrath of Khan,
Empire.
Thank you, Empire. One of my favorites is the second Matrix movie, where you have the freeway chase scene, which, love it or hate it, like that is an incredible chase scene, and like I turn that on when I'm
okay. So just to be clear,
yeah,
you're a communist?
Nerd Exchange of Western Pennsylvania is proud to present The Nerd Exchange, a show celebrating the region's contributions to art and culture, with the very best in nerdly review and enlightened geek critique. With your host, Tim Sedgwick. That's me. Living what we love and learning something cool and new every day. So let's get this game started, shall we? Because this podcast goes up to 11.
Sit around and figure out if I'm wasting time. Wait for the sign. It's time to shine, shine, shine. Wait for the sign. It's time to shine, shine, shine.
Welcome to the Nerd Exchange Podcast, the official podcast arm of the Nerd Exchange of Western Pennsylvania. I'm Tim Sedgwick, founder, president, and beneficent dictator of the Nerd Exchange. With me, as almost always, Mr. Kyle Sember.
Father of Cthulhu and Lovecraft aficionado. And zombie guy, I guess.
And communist. And with us this week, Pittsburgh artist and writer and student of the great work, Mr. Benjamin Zeus Barnett. How's it going?
very well. Also include Master of the Mystic Arts.
No.
All right.
No, I shan't.
Hello, everybody. I'm a huge fan of the show. Tim, thanks for having me on board this
And
evening.
just so you know, this is my oldest friend in the world.
No doubt, no doubt.
Because he's an old motherfucker. We
old
met in 1988?
I'm going to say 89.
Early 89?
Yeah.
So about 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
So
many bizarre adventures intervening.
We've known each other pretty much since Julie has been alive.
Since I learned to talk.
Wow.
And, you know, that's hot.
Yeah, think of that. Wrap your mind around that.
So, wow. Anyway.
Been through a lot of stuff
awesome
together.
book.
Captain Spooge.
Oh.
That's our first one of our first collaborations. Artistic.
Fuck the Doki.
Captain Spooge? I need to hear the story about this Captain Spooge.
Science fiction classic Captain Spooge.
Yes.
Featuring the crew of Captain Spooge's spacecraft, which name escapes me, but Jojo the Talking Dog.
I think he's making this all up.
No,
Shut up, Ben.
No, that's right.
Shut up, Ben.
Shut up.
Does this still exist anywhere?
Does it?
Only in our hearts.
We can recreate it.
I know, man.
At some point.
And featuring the late great Mark Stoltz.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yes.
Good times.
So, today we're going to talk about mysticism and the occult in comics and some other media. But first, it's a very pressing nerd-related news. First of all, I'm just going to throw this out there. I did some research, and I found out, guess what the percentage of the all-time highest-grossing movies are that are genre movies. You have to include animated, because most animated movies are targeted toward young adults and grown-ups as well.
90%?
So by genre, can we include like The Wizard of Oz and
Yes.
Star Wars
Yes.
and
Yeah.
The Matrix and
Yes.
the Avengers are now making
Twilight. And it's a genre film.
Unfortunately.
Vampire is a genre.
Yeah,
A sparkly genre.
Still better than Queen of the Damned.
yeah, I agree. But what is it? What is that figure? What is it?
Julia says 8%?
87%.
87%?
I
Close.
was close.
86%.
Oh wow.
86 of the top 100 movies.
Okay.
I've been
I'm
genre.
not surprised in the least.
Which is why the whole point of this, like, nerd pride and, like, stop kind of living in the shadows and being like, no, dude, we're just going to have our little thing over here. It's like, no,
Yeah.
dude. We're cool now, and that's awesome. But speaking of things that aren't cool, very sad, Mr. or Ms., depending on your point of view, Shia LeBeouf has announced his/her retirement from public life after the debacle, supposed debacle. Some people are saying he did it on purpose. Of when he stole Chloe's. Is that how you pronounce his name? Chloe's comic property and made the short film.
I don't know anything about it. Please
Yeah.
go on. He made a short.
Okay,
film.
so he made
Look
a
at me
short.
like
He made a short film based on this guy. I want
I
to
was
say.
in it with him. I don't know what the hell
I
he's saying.
don't. You're a comic book guy, man.
All right, no,
I still read Iron Man. Fuck shit, man.
All right.
Apparently, this guy had a. I think his name is Dan Clowes, Clowes.
That's a name
I don't
I
have
know.
my computer in front of me, but
What's
he
the
did
property?
this. He did this thing, and Shia LaBeouf made a short film, and he basically used the comic thing as his storyboards. It's like a frame for frame recreation of it.
Okay.
He didn't give him any credit.
Oh,
And now, granted, he didn't make any money off of it because he just kind of put it online for free.
okay.
And I don't know, figured that nobody would notice.
Uh-huh.
And then,
Because nobody ever notices anything on the internet.
yeah, nobody nitpicks on the internet. But then he apologized and then plagiarized the apologies. He like stole other
You
people's
stole our
apologies.
apologies.
He stole
guy can't
Lena
win.
Dunham's apology off of her Twitter account, and she went, "Hey, wait a minute." And then he hired a skywriter to fly over Los Angeles that says, "I'm sorry, Dan Clowes," whatever the guy's name is. The only problem is, Dan Clowes, if that's his name, sorry if I'm fucking this up, Dan Clowes lives in San Francisco.
This guy, man.
He then went
So-
online to apologize again, but then stole Mel Gibson's apology, and everyone figured it out because he kept, saying.
Seriously, he
"Yes."
fucked up the apologies so bad you'd think Michael Bay directed them.
Oh!
Wow.
So,
No, this is
everybody's kind of saying, fuck you to this guy. So, a couple days ago, he announced that he's retiring from public life. And he
Oh, that's
quit
what-
Twitter,
okay.
and he's like, fuck you, I'm taking my ball and going home. And what I think is, it's the Howard Hughes syndrome. Because since this kid's been 16, 17 years old, I think he was 17 when
He's
Holes
been a-
came
yeah,
out.
He's been a superstar.
He's been a superstar that nobody says no to. And Howard Hughes, I don't know, do you know the story of Howard Hughes? Why he was rich?
Yes.
Why was he rich then?
Okay, don't.
Because his grandfather invented the drill bit that everybody uses still to this day that they have to use to drill for oil. And so his family owned the patent on it. So when he was 18 years old, he started out with $1 million in the bank, which in today's money would be closer to $1 billion. So when he decided to just kind of go crazy, he's like, I'm going to be a filmmaker and do crazy things that nobody had ever done before. Nobody said no to him because he was richer than God. And he slowly went crazy. And I think that's what's happening with...
Yeah, I knew all of that.
So,
I just said
but
no.
at the same time, it bears discussing that here's just a 18-year-old kid. Granted, he's living in Hollywood, made these films, whether you like him or hate him. Okay, whatever.
He's 27 now.
Okay, so he made. Are you telling me that? I'm curious to know, what is this David? I think it's Close property that he ripped off. What's this little independent film that he made that he then threw up on YouTube? Do you know what it's
What's
called?
the name
What's
of it?
About? Yeah.
The one time I don't have my computer at the desk.
Okay.
You can, if you look it up on Huffington Post, I'm sure they have it. It was basically a graphic novel.
Okay.
That.
I guess what I'm asking is his little film titled the same as this property, or did he just see these? Okay, so it's
he changed the names.
Okay.
But everything, no, I don't think he even changed the names.
Okay.
But everything else about it
Yeah.
is this, like, literally frame for frame thing.
Well,
It seriously is such a childish reaction to like he's gonna disappear from public life. Bullshit.
at this point, the way you guys describe these utterly botched apologies, like, it sounds like a pretty good move, because someone needs to save this guy from himself. Oh my goodness, he's just...
Maybe he needs to take some time off, is what you're saying. Maybe he needs to take a year.
Get his name legally changed, have some reconstructive surgery.
Like, if you think about, just the relatively smaller error, let's call it an error. Let's call it a little oops. Sorry, guys, I got pulled over by some cops while I was drunk and said some shit I shouldn't have said about the Jews. But, think about what that did to Mel Gibson's career. He was pretty much, he was at the top, and it just...
Right.
Man, no bearing on...
He doesn't even have a career anymore.
He's tried to bring it back, and they're just, Mel...
He was in that Jodie Foster movie, The Beaver.
Okay.
Wait,
What
what kind of
movie
movie
is
was
that?
that?
I've not even heard of this. What is
Jodie Foster made a movie called The Beaver. And it was about a guy who, like, apparently had a beaver puppet, and he could only talk to other people with the beaver puppet.
Yeah.
And she's really good friends with him. And so she put him in this movie, hoping
to help Mel out.
Hoping to bring him back. And he's doing the Expendables 14, too, so he's inching back.
Okay.
So he's kind of done his time in the wilderness.
If we all had to be punished for every time we get drunk and do ridiculous shit,
I'd be in jail until 2137.
There would be, quite a lot to say about me as well. But, at the same time, here's this
This is
kid.
the man, by the way, just real quick. One of the first times we hung out together, we were at a party at Darren's house.
All right.
And you were walking around with a
Darren
giant...
number 1 or Darren number 2?
5. Sandusky.
Yeah.
And you were walking around with a giant jug of, like,
Port wine.
Yeah. Going up to people, and they're like, punch me in here as hard as you can. And people didn't want to do it, and you started shoving people like, no.
Punch
and
me,
finally, I think it was actually Stoltz who finally got you to stop, because he was just like, no, I'm not going to punch you. And then you were like, punch it. And then you went, boom. And you went down on this couch, and you got up, and you went,
that was awesome.
All right, then.
That was awesome. Yeah, okay, that was our thing back in Indiana before the dwarves made it cool. Okay, I just want to go on record as saying that. But to return to my original point about poor little Shia LeBeouf, here's a kid. What you're describing to me, we don't know exactly what this piece is to qualify this statement, but it really sounds, a piece of fan fiction, which is something that, I guess if you're already a celebrity and you sit down to make a little piece of fan fiction, which you're telling me that he didn't get money from, it's just, here's a little exercise. I was screwing around with my camera. Maybe someday I'll be a director and as well as an actor. Here's this thing that he just threw up there. I screw around and write fan fiction all the time. I've got this treatment for a little bit of the Silmarillion, a backstory on one of the Nazgul. I'm in the back of my mind, this is just shit that I do, because I'm a fan. In the back of my mind, I'm working on a Terminator versus Alien. It's just like, that would be really Ginchy.
Yes,
or like,
here's the difference. Your point is well made. Here's the difference.
Is it just because he's a celebrity?
It's because
You
he's a
credit the
celebrity,
source
and
material when you do
he's
that.
not-
he didn't ask permission, number one.
Yeah.
Harlan Ellison, my favorite writer. If you haven't read Harlan Ellison, you should.
Great
It'll
writer.
make you a better human being. And I'm not even being hyperbolic
No,
here.
great writer.
He will let people record his stuff pretty much for free. Like, the Terminator was stolen from him, from 2 stories that were Outer Limits.
Really?
Yeah. And if you look at it in the end credits, one of the first things was, like, basically, thank you, Harlan. And he saw it, and the director
Mm-hmm.
said, "Where'd you get the idea for this?" He said, I ripped off a couple Harlan Ellison stories."
Yeah.
And he ended up getting like $111,000.
Harlan Ellison?
Yeah.
They threw him a bone. That's great.
No, after they went to court for 4 years.
My God.
Okay.
Right, so the original run didn't have Harlan Ellison, and he says over and over again, he's like, "Listen, if they just would have come to me and said, listen, we took elements from your stories and we made it this, let us show you the script, is it okay, we'll give you credit."
Yeah.
He said that's all he wants. So people write to him all the time doing these kind of things, doing these little kind of college thing, and he'll let people do it, whether there's money involved or not. But if you do it without his permission and he finds out about it, and he's done this multiple times, he will send lawyers to your dorm room and say, "If you show this to another human being, I'm going to own you."
Okay.
So that's the thing. Number one, he didn't put the guy's name on it.
Shia LeBeouf didn't put the guy's name on it.
Didn't put the guy's name on it at all.
Okay.
And completely in interviews and everything and out there just kind of put it out as something that he wrote.
Okay.
And I think that's a big deal.
How egregious was this act of plagiarism? It's just like, okay, well, this
frame for frame.
Yeah.
Take
egregious,
a comic book.
Fucking egregious.
Take a comic book and just imagine that being the storyboards for a movie.
Okay.
And yeah,
Maybe your listeners can who are familiar with this material can throw up comments on the Facebook page or something and
I've seen a little
Give us a
bit
bit
about
better
all
of a read.
this, and it's very blatant.
okay.
It's very blatant, and he said he didn't understand how copyright works.
yeah, that was another thing that was like strike 7.
Bullshit. Okay.
Right, you've been making major motion pictures since you were 8 years old, but you didn't understand how intellectual property works.
Copyright law made you rich, Shia LaBeouf, so that doesn't really stand up.
And the fact is, he could have right away said, "Holy crap!" Now here's the thing: as a stand-up comedian, it's difficult to watch other stand-up comedy because what ends up happening is sometimes I had a joke that I thought was mine when George W. Bush got the presidency. I called my ex-wife up because we were still friends and talking at the time, and I said, "Well, we're gonna go kill some beige people now." And she went, "Oh, why do you have to be the most politically?" I was like, "No, listen, that's what we do. We bomb brown people. When's the last time we did went up against somebody who was white? That was Germany. That's because they were taking over the world. And we were like, fuck you, that's our thing."
Bosnians,
Well,
Yeah,
Serbians.
yeah, Serbians. too.
Muslims. But regardless, the point is,
No. We were defending the Muslims in Bosnia.
a couple
Worse than Hitler.
a couple of years later, after I never told the joke on stage,
All right.
but I thought, boy, I'm really clever. I was watching an old George Carlin thing, and word for word,
Okay.
disconnected.
Yeah. I know.
I
what
was
you're
like,
saying.
oh, I stole
sometimes
this.
in the creative process, your mind
And
will
the
put together
subconscious.
these things, and you're not. They're just sort of floating around in the collective unconscious. I do not doubt somewhere out there's some writer with all the thousands of writers writing spec that has been like, yeah, man, Alien versus Terminator. Let's make this happen. I don't doubt that there's somebody out there who had
Right.
the same concept.
And that was his original defense.
Yeah.
Was I didn't realize that this thing that I read that
So
I copied
his
frame for
defense-
frame.
His defense was the infinite monkeys with infinite typewriters.
Yeah.
Originally, yeah.
Okay.
Originally, yeah.
And
Now, I don't know.
Not having seen this material, maybe who knows? I can't judge at this point. So to be continued.
We'll post some links
Yeah.
on the Facebook page.
in the trial of Shia.
so people can compare and contrast. I mean,
Okay.
And also, in happier news, apparently Twin Peaks is coming back.
Yay. Love.
How?
Love it.
They're filming. David
Filming
Lynch is filming.
what?
I don't know. Listen, I read a thing on the Huffington Post. You can find it there. That basically, at the end of the series, the astral projection or whatever of Laura, what's her name?
Palmer.
Laura Palmer says to Kyle MacLachlan's character, the inspector, that she'd see him in 25 years.
Wow.
And that was in 1990.
I really do believe
So-
that Lynch is one of our great filmmakers, one of our great writers, just a creative dynamo to be reckoned with, and that I'm glad to hear that he still has more in him. I hope it measures up to the Firewalk with Me is has been on my top 10 since it first came out.
Really?
And oh yeah, I'm a huge fan of. I'm not somebody who obsesses over the show, but that movie, in a way, like I can almost say that I love the movie so much because I'm not really familiar with the show. But what the movie does in a wonderful way is it's like a cutting room for all these concepts and visuals, which he then distills down into its most potent form and encapsulate it. And when you go to sit down in that movie, you get the refined form of what he has been working on in the show for years and years and years. So, oh boy, do I love that stuff.
So keep your eyes open for that. They weren't really that specific about whether they were doing a new TV show or a new movie. It sounded more like a TV show, probably like a miniseries. Can you imagine that, Netflix?
Yeah, really.
Oh, imagine how many new people would go on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
The man is like, I consider him to be a modern incarnation of a mystic, and I mean that as first of all as an enormous compliment, but in the same way as like Salvador Dali is himself a practicing mystic. He has this entire system of symbols that are consistent within itself and unique to him. He also I consider to be like, if you will, a student of the great work.
Do you know that he has eaten the same thing for lunch since 1981?
David Lynch?
Yes.
What?
I think it was like hamburger, fries, and a strawberry milkshake. I saw this on Jay Leno a long, long time ago. That this thing, and they were like, so you eat the same thing every day at the same place? Yes, I do. Why do you do that? Because I don't like my brain being clouded with irrelevant decisions.
Well, Einstein
So now I know every day that I'm going to eat this. That basically gives me from breakfast till dinner to just concentrate on my work.
You got to free up some of that.
How's my David Lynch?
That's spot on.
I have no idea how David Lynch sounds, so that was spot
That's
on.
his MO. Modus operandi. Yeah, that's it, man. I thought he was here in the room.
He's a good man, that Coop.
For those of you listening at home, David Lynch did not suddenly walk into the room. But that's awesome.
Special guest.
That's awesome.
Okay, speaking of new movies coming out, and this is kind of a complete 180 from like the genius of David Lynch, but Marvel's got a big slate of movies coming out. Not just Marvel Studios, but Marvel properties.
That's right.
We're not going to talk about the big revelation with DC and The Rock.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. We're going to do Marvel first and then
Okay.
DC because
As it
DC
should
sucks
be.
and Marvel doesn't. Anyway,
I'm the only DC fan in the room.
Not sure.
Oh, no, she's a huge
okay,
Vertigo
okay.
fan. It's going to be a rumble. A nerd rumble.
Actually,
Stabbings
take
with...
them.
Okay, so we got Captain America, Winter Soldier,
Even listening to
Spider-Man
it,
2, Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Whatever.
What the hell does that say?
I think it looks good. The
Have you
first
guys?
one was good.
I haven't.
Guardians
heard-
of the Galaxy.
Was anybody crying out? No, why don't they make a Guardians of the Galaxy? Guardians
Yes.
of who?
Yes, right after I said there better fucking be an Ant-Man movie in...
Really?
Yeah.
They're like fans are clamoring for the Guardians of the Galaxy. 'Cause we
No,
all
but
know
it's going to expand. It's going to expand the universe so much.
Okey-dokey.
Once once you
We're in the
establish
same we're in the
Thor,
same boat on this, I think.
once you establish Thor and the whole idea of magic as science
Okay.
and the whole Asgard and the 9 realms
Mm-hmm.
and increase the story.
And I'm like, I know what you're talking. It's like Guardians of the Galaxy. They're like, yes. I'm like,
You see,
Rocket Raccoon. They're like, yeah, Rocket Raccoon. Actually,
we
yeah.
spoke about this on the show before, where if you had told me 10 years ago they could make a marketable Thor movie, I would have said you were a liar.
Okay.
They were able to do it twice, and they're good films. So
Here's the thing.
Guardians, I don't know a lot about them, but
Yeah.
I am looking forward to
Nobody's. We're talking about that's that's kind of the Akron, Ohio of the Marvel universe. It's just like as comics.
I have family in
our
Akron.
to our listeners in Akron,
So do I,
Ohio,
actually.
the views
I've been there, and it's a terrible place. I don't want to go back.
the
Yeah.
views
It's not because of
expressed
your
by Benjamin Zeus
Or mine,
Barnett
Yeah, it could be.
are not
It very well could
necessarily
be.
those of Nerd Exchange
excuse
of
me.
Western Pennsylvania.
For
Not
celebrating
saying
the
they're
reputation
not either.
of
I'm
that
not saying
section
they're
of
not
cultural
either.
industry. That is no. It's like Guardians of what? It's like who even knew? It's like okay, that's cool. I hope they do something good with it. You can take any property and either make it. You can take a terrible book and make it into a great movie. You can.
Here's the point. the big, and we're going to talk about this later when we get into the occult thing, because I've made lists, because I love lists. There are whole kinds of different origins for superheroes.
Yes.
You've got your science-based, your super soldiers, mutants, magic, mystical types, alien/god, depending on your point of view, and your non-powered. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, they're bringing in vigilantes, people like Hawkeye, things like that.
Yeah.
I'll get to my list in a little bit. But anyway, they're bringing Thanos and the Collector. And they're probably going to end up bringing the Watcher as well into this. And in order to do that, you can't just have those characters go to Earth and fuck with Earth. Because at the end of the day, most of those characters don't give two squirts of piss about Earth. Some things on Earth, but Earth in general, they're not going to spend any time there. So here you have a construct, and I don't think it's going to be a great movie, but I think if it makes $300 million worldwide, it'll make its money back, and they're not going to cry.
Yeah.
Because they made so much money on the other things. This is literally like an act 2 on a big arc, in a way, that they can say, okay, now all of you people who know what Thor is and are okay with Captain America and okay with Iron Man, okay with the Hulk.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the rest of the galaxy. Here's the rest of here's Nova.
Yeah.
Here's it, and you need a movie like this. And like I said, it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna put the world on fire, but you have to do that just to expose people who aren't like us, fans from the back when we were 6 years old. Because even though you were like, who needs a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, you knew what it was.
Well, I'm a geek, like, yeah, I know what it is.
Like, duh.
But I mean, the other thing about it is the people who know what it is. None of you are excited. You're all sitting there and you don't have high hopes for it.
Yeah. It's just
when
like,
you walk into a movie without high hopes for it, they have so much more wiggle room to just fucking blow your mind.
You are right about that.
That's very true.
Like Blade as a Marvel comic was really sort of substandard. For that matter, Iron Man as a Marvel comic book was likewise. Was there like
only in the 80s and 90s?
It never really was a smashing success. It was never like a phenomenon the way that X-Men was a phenomenon, or even Avengers was a phenomenon. Go ahead, please. Help yourself.
I mean, I never read a lot of Iron Man, and I love the movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, those are great.
And then I went to try to read some Iron Man comics, and I was incredibly disappointed by the actual comic. But with what they're doing with their film properties, like, they really can do no wrong at this point.
I'm impressed by what they're doing.
They can.
Oh, well, yeah, it'll eventually happen, probably. But,
as soon as you think somebody can do no wrong is when they manage to somehow stab you in the eye.
Oh man!
Episode 1.
But anyway, they've really brought comic books to the movies in that they've built this universe that they can they've created the sandbox that they can introduce anything without having to explain it too much, and without having to dumb things down too much, and make it marketable and make it not only palatable for the mainstream moviegoer, but also for the fanboys like us.
No doubt.
I mean, I never would have thought they could have done Thor. Never in a million years did I think you could make a Thor movie and not make it stupid as all hell.
Yeah.
I mean, they tried back in that made-for-TV Incredible Hulk movie. They tried to have Thor in that, and that just did not work out.
They also had a budget of $38.92.
For real.
But,
did you see the Daredevil one?
Didn't they buy Hulk hands for that?
Yeah.
It just seems strange to me. Like, it's okay, we're going to have a science fiction thing, and it's going to have a raccoon, and okay, that's
it's
fine.
an alien who just happens to look exactly like a raccoon.
Yeah.
And we're going to have and Vin Diesel is going to be an ant.
Groot.
I'm Groot. It just seems strange to me to, like, if you're going to take a Marvel property, is the decision because it already has a fan base, so it's like, well, at least we'll make our money back because at least all the fans of Guardians of the Galaxy.
No, it's not about fans of Guardians of the Galaxy. It's bringing in these alien villains. Okay. You have to bring Thanos in. What Thanos came in at the end after the Chitauri. Yeah. Which is one of the most generic Marvel evil alien baddies.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you've got these guys, and who knows? Like Julia said, maybe since we're not expecting anything, maybe it'll make it really great.
And
or maybe there'll be such good performances in it that you'll get people who will be like, wow, Bradley Cooper. Imagine how many fangirls, not even fangirls of nerd stuff, of just girls who are going to go see that movie because Bradley Cooper is the frickin' voice of the raccoon.
Who the hell is Bradley Cooper?
I have no idea.
He's the raccoon. So.
Bradley
Tim,
Cooper,
Tim
Younger brother of Al.
Yeah, clearly.
The Notebook. Nothing.
He's
Am I the only
Just-
person here who watches chick flicks?
a
Just
Hollywood
because I have a
heartthrob.
vagina
He's
doesn't
a
mean I
Hollywood-
care about the Notebook.
He is a Hollywood heartthrob.
Okay.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Don't take my word for it. Take
That's
the
cool. Well, you
fact
know,
that-
what that says to me is whatever the hell Guardians of the Galaxy is, it'll probably not just be this pedantic thing that riding on the success of a comic book, but rather it will be its own thing, for better or worse. You know,
right.
for good or bad.
It's a gerund metaphorically in the movie universe. Gerund, any word that ends with ing, an action.
Okay.
Drink ing, fuck ing.
I'm with you so far.
They're going to move the universe into bigger and better things because how many times can the
How
Earth
about
almost
right,
die?
How about if you get a great writer, say me for instance, I'll write you a good Fantastic Four script. I know it sounds impossible with scrolls or with I don't know
Super Scroll. Ooh.
Super Scroll. Yeah, Super Scroll, man.
Hey, here's an idea.
The Brood.
A Fantastic Four movie where Galactus shows up.
There we. Hey, there's a.
Hey, there's
Hey,
an idea.
There are so
Here's
many
one.
great. There's so many great science fiction stories you could write. Oh, whatever. We'll see what they do.
The
We'll see
new
what they do.
Fantastic Four
I'm not
movie is going to have an African American Johnny Storm, and he's not going to be related to Sue Storm.
Really?
I'm not making
The
this up.
angriest I have ever been. Well, no. Okay, the angriest I've ever been at a movie.
Strange.
The end of that fucking movie.
What movie is that? Fantastic.
Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Okay.
Oh,
Because they didn't.
2
They didn't
hours
pay off with a big
Sitting
picture
there,
of a
like my
Galactus.
nails slowly becoming embedded
Yeah.
in the armrests, going, Galactus is going to show up, and
Galactus is
there's
eat the
going to be
world.
some world destroying,
no,
and
there's-
there's going to be an awesome fight at the end,
I
and
share
it
your
ends
frustration.
with a battle with Dr. Doom on
the
a
surfboard.
fucking surfboard.
Yeah. That's
Fuck you.
well.
Don't beat around the bush, Kyle. Did you enjoy the film or not?
Yeah. It's better than the first
There's
one.
a part of this.
It's better than the
No.
first Fantastic Four.
No, it isn't.
Oh, all right.
Oh, okay. So, anyway.
It's not even better than the 1990s, the fuck is his name? The Fantastic Four movie they made that never came
Oh,
out.
the 93, the one they made for like 30 grand just to keep the rights?
Corman.
Yeah.
Corman.
That was
Okay.
That was better.
Okay, so The Rock,
Those are strong words.
they
Here
haven't
we go.
announced anything. This is just more speculation. They're speculating. I still say Martian Manhunter. You say, what, Jon Stewart?
Mm-hmm.
Jon Stewart, Green Lantern?
I said that last week
Oh,
on
there
the
was
show.
One of
and
the producers of the thing, of Batman vs. Superman, tweeted Justice League to somebody.
Okay.
Like, apparently, I might be getting trolled here, but apparently somebody said, hey, can you give us more details on Batman vs. Superman? And he tweeted back just Justice League.
Yeah.
So what I've been saying for a few months now
They
that
should just call it Justice League.
that
Maybe they
just
will.
get on with it. But The Rock, I mean, no matter what role it is, it's going to increase ticket sales because there are people who like The Rock who don't necessarily like genre films. So I still don't think him, because Jon Stewart is an African American, and The Rock is 12 or 13
Does he
things.
seem like Samoan or Hawaiian? Or...
He's part Samoan. He's part, I think, Ecuadorian. He's part African American.
He's like Obama. He's a Muslim, Arab, Somali. Let's just
Yes.
right back.
If you're so, and Kyle looks very smug right now.
Yes, I do. Because I predicted it last week, and it looks like it's coming to pass. I think it's going to be Jon Stewart. I'm sorry.
Well, I still disagree with you, but we'll see. hopefully in the next couple of months, to get the hype rolling, they're just going to say, okay, Justice League, and go. And this person's going to be Aquaman, this person's going to be Green Lantern, this person's going to be...
Can you smell what the power ring is cooking?
Get the hell out of my house. You bastard! What do you think, Julia?
Anywho.
I think I've been worrying about making room for people to walk.
For those of you who aren't here with us, we're in a tiny room.
It's actually not a tiny room. There's just a lot of us right in the middle where nobody can walk.
Yes.
So...
He's athletic. He can do it. So,
we received a bit of listener feedback.
Oh, listener feedback. And then we're going to get into Alan Moore and my list.
Okay. So, we received a little bit of listener feedback. I got some on my Twitter. Where I was asked the question from a listener of the Nerd Exchange podcast. Am I a Bjork fan or a white supremacist?
You? I don't know what would be more insulting.
Am I a Bjork fan? I'm gonna let this
I have to
sink
say
in.
that is one of the best questions I've heard in the past 60 years.
Multiple choice question, right?
You're either.
Now, let me start saying...
Did you reply?
Yes, I did.
Oh, how could you not, really?
And apparently...
Did you say you were a Bjork supremacist?
No, I did not.
That would be awesome.
I had to ask why the question was asked. And apparently, a listener of the show checked out my Facebook page, where I have pictures of various things, including my tattoos, including this tattoo.
Okay.
And apparently, Bjork has the exact same fucking tattoo.
This is why I never got tattoos.
So how much does tattoo removal cost?
And also,
Tell them it's gang related. Tell them it's Bjork gang related. You can get it done for free.
It's the Swan Posse.
What does that mean? What is the significance
it
of
is
that?
a Viking symbol, meaning that which cannot be destroyed or opposed. And it
Okay.
means a lot to me. This was my father paid for this tattoo.
Okay.
For my 19th birthday, several weeks before he died. So it's always carried a very big significance for me. But apparently Bjork has the same tattoo, and apparently, as of late, white
Nordic.
supremacists have started using this symbol instead
Well,
of the swastika.
oh, really?
Yeah.
So it is. It could be considered gang related.
So that was
Unintentionally, of course, but
yeah, they just kind of some have adopted it, which I'm kind of really insulted by. Wow. And yeah, white supremacist, I don't think the Aryan Nation's going to let me in.
because
Catholic, they don't dig that. Native American, I'm pretty sure they don't let those guys in.
Who knows?
Irish, yeah, they don't let those people in either, as far as I know, in the Aryan Nation.
if you're Protestant, they might. I have a funny story about this. Kind of back in the day. At the Beehive Coffee House here on the south side of Pittsburgh. If you're ever in Pittsburgh, if you're listening out of town, go there.
You know it.
It's the greatest place ever. Not really, but
Well, it was back in the 90s.
It was.
It was. It's
a
still
piece-
a very nice
It's a
place.
piece of history.
Piece of history. I was sitting there, and I shaved my head because, well, I'll get to that. But this other guy who had a shaved head is big, kind of special, kind of differently abled guy named Ian. Do you remember Ian? He drew a lot, and he came over and he goes, "What kind of skinhead are you, dude?" I'm reading a paper, drinking a coffee, and wearing a suit coat, looking more like a college professor. And he was like, "Huh?" He's like, "Well, are you like one of those Aryan racist skinheads? Or are you are you just one of those guys who wears a suit and doesn't give a shit about anything?" And I looked at him and I said, "I'm a Yul Brenner skinhead." He said, "What?" He said, "I'm a Telly Savalas skinhead." What? I was like, "I was going bald, so I shaved my head. I liked the way it looked, so I kept it." And I went back to my paper. I was like, "Oh, so you're into heavy metal?" And I said, "No." He's like, "Well, what kind of music do you listen to?" I was freaking this guy out because I didn't fit With what I looked at, I said, I don't know, Neil Diamond, Barry Manilow, show tunes. Anne Murray. I'm on a big Anne Murray kick right now. Pretty much anything by ABBA. And then,
Sorry.
Then I killed him. Because I will not allow ABBA to be fucked with. Fuck you.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I was just telling one of my coworkers about the whole Mamma Mia for watching that movie for our first actual date thing, and the fact that when the girls get off the boat and I'm looking at you like, are you sure you like women?
And I said, bitch, listen, you do not talk while Voulez-Vous is being sung. I'll let you blow me later, but right now, I got some 1980 ABBA. She actually, for the holidays, got me an ABBA CD.
It took us 3 episodes of this show for me to figure out these two were dating, so.
Wait, what?
I was sure you liked Dick. I'm sorry.
Got a lot of pussy that way during my lifetime. They all thought I was gay until I was fucking them, and they were like, wait, what? Wait a minute, what? Okay. So anyway, how did you respond to...
Have you responded
My response was, what the fuck?
or Aryan Nation?
And then they
explained
it, and yes, so apparently I'm Bjork, share a tattoo, which I can deal with. I don't hate her.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate Bjork so much. Oh my god. Her and Enya should
Fuck
die.
You.
Should die.
Seriously.
In just razor blades and cheese grater dildos. Oh.
Zootalore.
I love when you look at me like
my
that.
God. Things are about to get hot and
being
heavy.
suplexed before the end of this show.
Listen, I told you, I don't like dick.
Please don't. I'm already gimped up, and if he's broken too, we'll
We're
just whine
screwed.
each other to death.
So anyway,
Do not
so
fuck.
yeah.
I like Enya. Fuck you.
What's my main point in this podcast. We talk about, yes, there are objective ways of dealing with art, and whether it's good or bad, and it's okay to like bad things.
Okay.
But anyway...
I'm still going to suplex you.
I can't help it. I still like AFI.
Okay.
Before anybody gets into a
list,
serious fight, yeah, what would you like to?
I like them when they sound.
Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through my top 10 lists of the different types of superheroes. Okay.
Okay.
And with each one, I'm just going to go through them real quick, not really elaborate. But if I missed one, let me know.
Okay.
And we can discuss that. Okay. So my science-based, this is from 10 to 1 in a particular order.
Okay.
Okay. I've got Hulk and She-Hulk at number 10.
Okay.
War Machine.
Sure.
Deathlock.
Deathlock.
Remember Deathlock?
Deathlock?
Deathlock.
I love Deathlock.
Spider-Man.
Sure.
At number 7. Number 6, I have Spider-Woman.
Okay.
Who is so much more kick-ass, I think. In a lot of ways than Spider-Man, because
Tits.
she did it on purpose and tits. Yes, and that's sexist. Why gotta be sexist? Power Man.
Power Man. Yeah.
Power Man.
Power.
The whole idea of you're in jail and maybe we'll let you out of jail someday. You're in a life sentence, but here, take this super serum.
Yes.
And if you don't die, maybe we'll let you out.
He, like Hawkeye, formerly a bad guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonder Man.
Yeah.
Wonder Man. Again, just a straight super.
I was
Baron
thinking
Zemo.
Excuse me. No. Yeah. Okay. Go on.
Wonder Man. Baron Zemo. He was just kind of like a henchman of Baron Zemo, and he had this super serum. It was one of those like, okay, you're my henchman, so you're going to take this. Mm-hmm. And he became arguably the most powerful being in the Marvel Universe. Like, he
really
kicks a lot of ass.
Did not know that.
Look him up.
Baron
Wiki
Zemo.
him.
Okay.
Wonder Man is pretty kick-ass.
I don't think I've ever read a comic with Baron Zemo. I do.
He was one of Captain America's big baddies.
Uh-huh.
I've seen him on.
Captain America is my number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Man is my number 2.
Okay.
And Vision is my number 1.
Vision. Oh boy.
Vision, who was made by Ultron.
Yes.
that was, but Ant-Man didn't make this list. Ant-Man is one of my honorable mentions. Created by Ant-Man, and then using the mental engrams of Wonder Man.
Right.
So that's that. My mutants, pretty much just call it the X-Men.
Yeah.
No, seriously,
Yeah,
like,
please.
from 10 to 1, Iceman, Cable, Angel, Magneto. I have Magneto on this list because he was a hero for a time.
One?
No, Magneto is actually number 8.
He's probably my second favorite comic book character of all time.
He is,
Wolverine,
that is one heck of a character.
Colossus,
His whole
Beast,
arc. It's wonderful.
Jean Grey, Cyclops, Professor X.
Sure.
I'm going to do the Magic mystical ones last because that's going to get into our next conversation. My non-powered, which are actually some of my favorite superheroes. I have Robins.
Yes.
There have been so many
Various
Robins. At number 10. Green Arrow at 9. What the hell is it? Ozymandias.
What?
From Watchmen.
Yeah, Ozymandias.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ozymandias from Watchmen. I mean,
it's got no
save the world by destroying it. Hello.
Zero
Spoilers,
superpowers.
sorry.
Zero superpowers.
Just rewatched that again.
Just a smart guy.
Batgirl / Batwoman.
I'll get to that one.
Kind of like the encapsulation of the character in general. Black Panther.
Isn't he kind of science-based? He's got the suit. Okay.
He's, well, more of the suit is the fact of the vibranium that comes from his country.
Yeah, and wasn't there some kind of super serum involved there too? I don't know.
Later on,
Yeah.
but originally it was just, you got this suit and we're the protector of Wachala, I believe was the way you pronounce it. Then Black Widow, Punisher, Batman, Fool Killer.
Whoa.
Fool killer.
Batman is not number 1.
No, Batman's number 3.
2 suplexes.
We'll get there. And a partridge in a pear tree up your ass. Fool Killer. Are you guys aware of Fool Killer? Oh, the original. Here's the concept. It was originally, I believe, an 8-issue miniseries. And what it was this guy, this normal guy, finds the wreckage of a spaceship or something, and finds basically a blaster, an atomizer, a gun, that, he shoots at a mugger or whatever. And he shoots him, and he completely atomizes him. Just like a phaser on Disintegrate.
Okay.
And he realizes that, holy shit, I can find bad people and just kill them. But he only has, 8 shots. So he has to kind of, be very picky. So he puts on a little bit of Lycra because, fuck you, it was the 80s. Yeah. That's what you did.
Yeah.
And then he went around and he found, child molesters and just really bad people. Fools. You're fools. It's kind of almost a Sartrean existential, you take away from the planet more than you give to the planet, so boom. And you probably won't be missed. Boom. So, and then there's more and more incarnations as you go on.
Okay.
But, so,
I'll
again, that
check this
could
out.
kind of be science-based.
Okay.
But since he didn't make the
that
science,
is.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And since he wasn't attached to the organization, I put him in there. And then my number 1 is Hawkeye. Now, you might say, why is Batman number 3 and Hawkeye number 1? Because Batman is a billionaire. Batman is a billionaire. Brilliant, yes. A great detective, originally. A genius, yes. But billions of dollars to back him up. Whereas Hawkeye was a guy who learned how to shoot bow and arrow really well, was originally a villain, and of his own volition became the voice of humanity, of the common man in the Avengers.
Yeah.
Also brilliant, not a billionaire, so he's my number 1. And then I have Alien/Gods. Number 10, I have The Warriors 3.
Very nice.
From Thor. Nova. The Silver Surfer. Number 7, I have Superman.
Yeah.
6, Hercules. 5, Wonder Woman. 4, Thor. 3, Green Lantern. Because even though he's a human, it's alien technology, and there's more than just humans in the Green Lantern Corps.
I'm with you so far.
Number 2, Martian Manhunter, who I believe in the DC universe is the most powerful.
He's got a lot going on.
He's got a lot going on.
He's on par with Superman. In fact, I think he has as much power.
Yeah,
as
he
Superman.
could kick Superman's ass. I maintain. the Martian Manhunter, but he's a pacifist for the most part. That's the thing.
Sorry, I misheard you.
It's like one of those things that, like,
I thought you said he could kick Superman's ass. I mean, taint.
he could kick that too. And then Aquaman, I have as.
Oh, for crying out loud!
But
Aquaman.
he's an alien of Earth. He is the most powerful from Earth.
Okay.
Born within and on or under the planet.
That's right.
He is like a god.
I still maintain
And
that
just so we're
Damian
clear-
Wayne could kick his ass.
Just so we're clear, these are your top 10 favorite
Yes.
heroes from whatever universe.
Whatever universe, yes.
Okay.
These are the ones that I feel are the most significant.
Okay. These are Tim's top 10.
These are Tim's.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, now we get into Magic and
I do like a lot of your choices.
the mystical. And what I like about this is, you'll see from my list, DC, back before the Silver Age began, a lot of their characters were magically based.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like how Stan Lee in the 60s, when he was trying to explain how somebody got their superpower, just went, oh, just they're mutants. They're mutants and that's it. Back in the 40s especially, a lot of these characters are like Green Lantern, it's magic. It's just a magic ring with a magic lantern and it's magic, magic, magic.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk about that more a little bit later. The evolution
that sort of articulates the distinction between a lot of the DC and Marvel universes and why I'm a Marvel guy rather than a DC guy. And that's that Marvel makes pains, at least in the 60s, and still does, to make their characters more down to earth. You know, they got the sense that, okay, people who read comic books aren't necessarily 8-year-old little boys who it's just fantasy. Some of us want to, you know, deal with these characters who have real world problems and which makes them super powerful as heroes, needs to be more down to earth as well.
Yes, Peter Parker being that one of my favorite comics was Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, because there was a lot less tights and fights in it. Like you'd have it, but most of it was, you know, faces and text of him actually dealing with things. Mm-hmm. That's why it wasn't that popular. I mean, no, seriously, a mint #1 PP Spectacular Spider-Man only goes for $100 near mint. Now, granted, it came out in the mid-'70s, but still, it was never very popular, and that's the reason why, because most people are like, yeah, we like that stuff too, but have him kiss the girl and punch something.
Yeah.
So anyway, here are my magical Zatara. Oh, one other thing about magic. Do you know Superman, the only two things that
That's right.
that is kryptonite and magic.
Yep.
Any sort of earth magics that are put against him, he is powerless against. I've got some comics in there where it's like, oh, this witch put some tree people, so basically put some ents against him, and he gets his ass kicked because being from this earth magics kick his ass.
There's this one great...
John Constantine was able to stand
I was
to...
hoping you were going to put John Constantine on your list. I love me some John Constantine.
Did you like the film?
No.
I did.
I'm suplexing you right now. Outside. Right now.
Now, wait a minute. If he gets more suplexes from you than he gets from me, does he just get mine?
Anathema. You
Wait,
take
if
John Constantine out of London and you put him in L.A., it's no longer John Constantine.
I
it's
won't
no longer
argue.
John Constantine.
I did not like that either.
London is next to John Constantine himself. London, the city of London, is the most important character in John Constantine.
I'll be honest. I don't know the character from the comics that much. I saw the movie, didn't care for it. Like, I didn't hate it, but I didn't have any other context to go. It's like, oh, it's another Keanu Reeves movie where he I've got cancer. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna kill some devils now.
Yeah.
Please don't judge.
I think Keanu Reeves in that movie, it just became about. I could not separate the actor from the plot and the film and everything, and it became about Keanu Reeves' angst.
Yeah. Best cinematic devil in history.
Okay, there are some fine special effects with it, and it's a perfectly good.
No, the actor who was doing the devil
Oh, really?
at the very end.
Yeah, okay.
He was freaking awesome.
I'm glad that you liked it. For the whole time that I'm watching this thing, all I can think of is what have they done to my beloved John Constantine. But I came with it.
Yeah, I've only
as a fan of the comics, so I had my prejudices.
I've only read one of the graphic novels, so I'm not that big
they're
into it.
wonderful.
But I did enjoy the film. I'm sorry.
A wonderful creation of, I guess, Alan Moore created that character initially in a swamp thing, and I guess I'm going to be getting to some Alan Moore shit after a little while. But please continue, Tim.
Man Thing is my number 9.
I love it, man.
It would be.
That's a lot of fun.
Great comic, bad movie.
Number 8, I have Shazam / Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel.
You're entitled to your opinion.
Magically based.
No doubt. True story. So I guess
Great little cape.
So I guess if he ever goes up against Superman, I guess it's going to go to Captain Marvel.
What do I have here? Sandman, of course, is my number 6. Number
Which
7
one?
is Witchblade.
Which one?
What's
Which
that?
Sandman? Neil Gaiman
Morpheus.
or Golden Age?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Gaiman.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Gaiman on
Lord
this.
of the Dreaming.
Yeah,
Lord Morpheus.
The Golden Age Flash.
Golden Age Flash. I didn't know that was a magic thing. I always
Yeah.
thought he got struck by lightning and there were some chemicals and...
No, wait a minute. Golden
Wait a
Age
minute.
No, that's the Silver Age.
Okay.
Golden
Golden Age,
Age.
there's magic?
No, it's, yeah.
Can we back this up a minute? You put Witchblade on your list?
Yeah.
Really?
I
And
think
that's
it's one
a
of the
third
most significant
suplex.
magically based characters in comic book history. What?
Okay.
See, because she reads it, and I really haven't read that much of it.
Okay.
But I know enough about it to know its significance in the history of comics and anime and stuff. Scarlet Witch is number 4. Now, Scarlet Witch is technically a mutant.
But she has had, quote-unquote, magical training.
Yeah, magical training that whatever...
At the hands of, I guess, either Doctor Strange or... Who's that one witch character in Marvel Comics? Agatha something?
Moorhead?
I don't know. Whoever she is. The old lady, she has she's just this magical old woman. I can't remember. Has appeared in Fantastic Four or something else.
Number 3, I have Doctor Strange.
Okay.
Sorcerer Supreme. Not necessarily that comic book run, but just the character in general.
Yeah.
Number 2, I have the Golden Age Green Lantern.
Okay.
With the no wood, but magical thing. And my number 1 is Swamp Thing.
Okay.
Because just the whole idea of, like, originally it wasn't this, and I think it was Grant Morrison and Alan Moore later on when they took it over, when it went to just like, oh, this is just an embodiment of nature and a chemical spill mixed together, to like, no, this is the personification of the green god.
Yeah. So, okay, you bring up a very interesting point here with Swamp Thing is a good way to segue this into this, and that's like one of the interesting things that they have done with, say, the Thor movies is they have approached this. The reason that Thor doesn't show up or wouldn't show up, even if he was your favorite, on your list of favorite characters that are magical or supernatural, which, the sort of Marvel comics, they would just explain that Thor gets his powers from magic. He's a god, he's a supernatural being. It's just magical, don't worry
Magic
about it.
hammer.
Yeah. However, in the movies, they've said, how are we going to do this magic stuff? And in a very savvy choice, they have said, okay, well, it's alien technology. It's not going to be magic. It's going to be alien technology. And I think they do a really nice job of interpreting these things that we are used to seeing, the Uru hammer and the Bifrost Bridge and all this other stuff. Interpreting that not as just, it's just magic, it's Norse mythology, and that's all you need to know. It's, okay, no, they do this with advanced technology, which segues interestingly into some of the things that I thought about talking about when I came here, and that's that, okay, on the one hand, this is pop culture, and it's absurd to look for, maybe it is absurd to look for even great literature in our comics and our movies and our genre entertainment. They're not really meant to. If that happens, if great literature happens, that's cool. But I think it's, and they can be great entertainment, and they can be great cinema. But if it's really changing your life, I think that's more of a rarity. But having said that, if you talk about the definition of magic by people who take this particular subject very seriously, the definition of magic as being the art and science of causing changes in the universe in harmony with the will. And this is the accepted sort of industry standard definition of magic. So as such, whether it has a quote-unquote supernatural cause or a natural cause, it's kind of a moot point. You know what I mean? Am I making sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't agree with part of that statement. I think there is some very profound, life-changing things that can be found in comic books.
I'd like to believe, but yeah, okay, let me. Maybe I should restate this. I don't think that anybody is looking to comic books about the supernatural.
Oh, okay.
Looking for in comics for the supernatural for
actual practical knowledge of how to affect those changes.
Let's just say that right now the state of comics as they are, and perhaps they will develop in this direction, but in American comics, we have not seen a great deal of serious theology presented in the comic book medium. There's no reason why we couldn't do theology or philosophy in a comic book medium, but it hasn't happened yet. There's no reason why it couldn't, but we in this country, comic books are usually about people in skin-tight suits beating the crap out of each other. And people like Scott McCloud have said, hey, it doesn't really need to be that way. Comics can be literally anything. But for right now, we go into a comic book store, and we expect to see on the shelves people in skin-tight suits beating the crap out of each other. And that's just, the nature of that medium. Now, with the exception of My Dinner with Andre, or I don't know, maybe certain Woody Allen movies, we don't expect to see, we don't expect to find a lot of really deep philosophy.
Transcendent philosophy
in cinema. It's just like My Dinner with Andre. These two people sitting at a table. That subject matter. It's interesting to see it one time on the big screen, but cinema doesn't really lend itself well to that kind of thing. That's not to say it couldn't, but it very seldom is it presented in that way, and that's fine. These art forms, these media will grow as time goes by. I came over here because I thought it would be fun to talk a little bit. I can go off on these rants and frequently do it in bars. Ooh, speaking of bars, yes, I love one. Is it 5 o'clock yet? Well, it is now. To talk a little bit about Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore, the two Vertigo writers, part of the British invasion of the late 80s, early 90s, both of whom I admire deeply. They really did, the work of those two guys has really influenced me. It's the reason why I'm still talking about this stuff now, the reason why I draw and write this stuff, and they really did have a profound influence on me. But their experience and exposure to perhaps the realities of the subject of magic, and the ways they've gotten it right, the ways I feel gotten it wrong, I'm eager to go off on this subject. So, my name is Benjamin Barnett, and anybody who knows me knows that I'm very enthusiastic about the works of Edward Alexander Aleister Crowley, deceased mystic, mountaineer, and poet. He has the books that he has written, I found, are incredibly insightful and very, very useful to me. And his work to synthesize different schools of thought, of religion and philosophy, I think are really, really cool, and I enjoy his work a great deal. And that's all well and good. And the way that
has that been incorporated into comics yet?
In ways it really, really has. People familiar with the works of Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman will probably be familiar with Alan Moore's Promethea. You four guys know what is Promethea? Anybody have any exposure to it? Okay.
Vaguely.
It's, first of all, it's great, and it's won Eisner's out the ass, and deservedly so. It is brilliant. It's a brilliant comic book. It's 5 graphic novels. I think there are 31 issues of Promethea that Alan Moore did under the America's Best label, which is a division of Wildstorm, which is ultimately a division of DC Comics, but they have given Alan Moore the ability to do kind of his own thing. Out of ABC Comics came
because you kind of have to.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Yeah, Alan Moore has paid his dues, produced some of the greatest comics in comics, and he is now a big enough talent and celebrity that he can do whatever he wants, and deservedly so. The man is a huge, huge talent. But Alan Moore's Promethea, I cannot recommend it enough. It actually, I study Hermetic magic, yoga, dramatic ritual. This is the kind of subject matter that I study, and I'm kind of the school of thought of Aleister Crowley. I disagree with him on a few points, and that's just fine. He wouldn't have it any other way. He doesn't want slave-like followers, nor do I. But he and I agree with each other on enough points that I can say, yes, you know what? Fucking A-right, man. Fucking the Great Beast is a good time for me. He really does inspire me. I agree with a lot of the stuff that he has to say. Now, Aleister Crowley is perhaps best known for the law of Thelema, which can be perfectly encapsulated, or succinctly encapsulated, in "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." And love is the law, love under will. Although Neil Gaiman has, if not necessarily quoting directly, this guy, there's an awful lot of Crowley-esque characters in his Sandman. Really, Neil Gaiman, the reason we talk about Neil Gaiman, I would say arguably, is because of Sandman. That, he...
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, that was the big...
Yeah.
I don't...
Splash into the...
if he
that
did,
crossed over into the nod-nerd culture as well.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. If Neil Gaiman did anything before Sandman, nobody talks about it, and nobody cares, because it wasn't... to me, it wasn't that big of a deal. Sandman really put him on the map, and that's fine. Neil Gaiman, also, huge talent. And yes, I would love to have 1/16 of what he's pulling down after taxes. Literally. That would be awesome for me. And I admire the man, and he deserves his success. He's done things for comics that we will, like, as geeks, I feel indebted to both of these Englishmen deeply.
And as far as gaming goes, there are very, very few people who can have that kind of just fierce talent for the graphic, as well as the actual literary expression.
No doubt.
See, I'm more of a fan of Grant Morrison, which, if you don't know about Grant Morrison, he did a lot. He did some Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
He did some Batman.
Some X-Men.
He did some X-Men. He did,
and
he is a magician. If I talk about it a lot, it's not just because I'd like this program to one day be on the network, but if you go to Smodco, which is Kevin Smith, his podcast network, there's like 30 different podcasts that they do. He has one called Fat Man on Batman, and he's got at least 4 extended interviews with Grant Morrison where he talks about Magick and, doing a bunch of drugs and figuring out that every point in Batman, including the Dozier series, magically fits into the story arc and the character arc.
The gospel according to Batman.
Yeah. Pretty much.
That's awesome.
Pretty much.
I'd love to see that.
And there's also a great documentary on Hulu, on free Hulu. I forget what the name of it is, but if you type in Grant Morrison on Hulu, it'll come up. And the last line, which is great, because I'm not spoiling anything, is like, he says, he's got a very thick Scottish brogue, by the way. It's going to take a little while to get used to it, but he says, "What's the meaning of life? I don't know. Love yourself, but love me more." That's
exactly
huge ego,
Yeah.
huge talent.
I need that on my
just huge.
bumper.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's very much his. As little as I know about Grant Morrison, that definitely sounds like his style.
That's
humor.
his thing.
Going back to Alan Moore, a little story I wanted to tell. Now, what was the name of that particular comic?
Well, I was talking about Promethea, which is his
No, the,
hermetic heroine superhero.
The one that kind of sounds like Necronomicon.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Very recent. I don't know what label it's under.
Yeah.
But yes, Alan Moore has recently made the papers, Fox News specifically. And let me think. The comic book in question is deeply, deeply Lovecraft influenced. It's called Neonomicon.
Yeah, that's
And
it.
I have read it, and oh my, is it naughty! It is incredibly naughty subject matter. Like, how? Go ahead and why don't you tell the story?
Okay, well, I'm a huge Lovecraft fan. If you're a fan of the show, you know that. And I have read this before the controversy started.
Okay.
But apparently, and I don't remember what state it was in. I wrote a big article about this years ago. But someone, like a girl, checked this book out from her local library, which carried graphic novels, and her mother was incredibly outraged at the sexual content in the comic, which is very, very explicit.
You know the
Like wieners and hoo-has?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, rape.
Lots of different species.
Yeah.
From Lovecraft, you remember are they called the deep ones?
The deep
guys that kind
ones,
of look like
yeah,
the monster from the
Creature,
Black Lagoon?
yeah, creature from the Black Lagoon
Okay.
having sex with
Chicks.
human chicks.
Yeah.
But this made national news about this. Oh, this poor 14 or 15-year-old girl was traumatized by this comic.
Was she
I was
traumatized or was
traumatized
her
by this.
mother traumatized?
I think her
traumatized
mother
by that.
was probably. And this was covered nationally.
But
But
this
the thing they
comic
didn't tell
book,
you about it on the news report
yeah.
was at this particular library, you could only check out that book with parental permission, which her mother granted for that comic.
Well,
They didn't
I'm
bring that
sorry.
up.
yeah.
I'm sorry,
You're
but if
a fucking horrible
So
mother.
blame Alan Moore or blame the parents.
Yeah, blame the
Yeah,
parents
no.
in this situation.
okay, my mother, whenever there was a parental advisory on a CD,
Yeah.
number one, she asked me, why should I let you buy anything like that? And I said, look, it's just things that they think will corrupt Catholic schoolgirls. At the time, being a Catholic schoolgirl.
Mm-hmm.
Her response to that was, okay, fine, but she wanted to see what the lyrics were.
Okay.
She looked up the lyrics for most of the parental advisory CDs that I couldn't buy being of that fucking age.
Yeah.
She gave me the go-ahead.
Okay.
Because, one of the first times I ever got sent to the principal's office, born a deadhead, singing Casey Jones, driving that train high on cocaine
Yeah.
in kindergarten.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And I was doing just fine by the time the parental advisory came out.
So
That's like buying your kid Grand Theft Auto 5 and then getting mad that prostitutes are killed in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's like, you should have done homework.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's my point. That's like anytime there's anything that's a red flag, parental consent is necessary.
Yeah. Alan
Why is
Moore
the
has
parent
done.
giving consent without knowing what it is?
Yeah.
Because people are dumb.
People are dumb, and they sometimes show up on Fox News. Go figure. But yeah, Alan Moore has done all kinds of different subject matter. He's done pornographic comics. He's done incredibly political comics. He's done visionary political comics. He's done deeply poetic comics. He's expanded this genre in amazing ways.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm reminded of when NPR started noticing in the 90s the explosion of new and different comic books showing up in the wheel rack. Mm-hmm. And NPR wanted to have some comic book creators to come on and talk about that shit on the radio. And Scott McCloud at the time, who's he writes a lot about comics and is he studies comics as an art form, which is rather rare. He was like, oh great, finally, here's this medium that I love so much, finally getting some attention from a mainstream intellectual source like NPR. That's great. And NPR brought on Frank Miller to talk about Sin City, at which point Scott McCloud goes, oy, 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 oy. Why did they go with this? Because, anybody who knows anything about Sin City, the movies or the comics, knows that it's completely over the top, just gratuitously violent, just people getting gunned down, bodies, blood, 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 blood. Tits, shaking in your face, no wieners, but anyway, yeah, just
No wieners. We aren't into that kind
over
of
the
hate
top,
shit.
but the name is Sin City, so yes, it's out there primarily for shock value.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Alan Moore's Neonomicon is very much in the minority of his work. Like, he's done a little bit of pornographic material, But to say that Alan Moore is he writes pornographic comics, that puts him in the same classification as Japanese tentacle rape artists. He does so much other shit. He does, and Neonomicon was this one little fringe thing that he did, specifically for shock value.
It's like that old joke, real quick. The Scottishman, he's retiring, and he says, his name was Angus. He was like, I've designed and built over 100 bridges in this country. They call me Angus the Bridge Builder. No. I've given hundreds of thousands of pounds to charity. They call me Angus the Philanthropist. But you suck one little cock.
And you're Angus the cocksucker.
Well, I'm just serious. Like, people who are outside of our nerd circles. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I thought that joke ended with, "You fuck one sheep."
No. That's the one, like, where it says,
that's the Australian
well, not with the sheriff's girlfriend, you don't.
So, to continue with the original subject matter, Alan Moore in his Promethea, first of all, it's incredibly Crowley based. He's in some ways like so enthusiastic about Crowley that there's more Crowley than just about any other character within it. There is one episode in a 30-issue run, maxi series, in which he goes through the entire trumps of the tarot cards, and page by page, 22 trumps, roughly 26 pages in a comic book, and each page is a different tarot trump, and it shows Aleister Crowley going from an embryo to an infant to a mature man to an old man and dies. Then he goes through almost beat by beat, almost one issue at a time, goes through the entire tree of life of the Kabbalistic system of mysticism, going through one Sephiro at a time, Kether, Chokmah, Binah, Chesed, etc. And every issue is another Sephiro of the tree of life, and Promethea goes through and explores. In Gebura, the Martian sphere of the tree of life, you have Promethea walking around dealing with Martian entities, intelligences, demons, angels, what have you. But very much delivered from Alan Moore's reading of Aleister Crowley's 777. And he admits that, like, Crowley is totally where it's at. I came here in a way to talk about how both of these men, in different ways, Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman, have made an awful lot of money off of Hermetic magicians, but in some ways have misrepresented them. What is astounding to me, for as much as I love and admire and envy Alan Moore, I will not veil my vices in virtuous words. Oh boy, would I love 1/16 of what he's pulling down. As much as I admire them, it is unusual to do all of this Crowley-derived work in his Alan Moore's Promethea, and never once mention what I just mentioned here, the law of Thelema, which, if there's one fucking thing that Aleister Crowley would like to be remembered for, it is his law of Thelema, his
credo,
his word, his word of Thelema being, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. To omit those words in this massive graphic novel, which, again, I admire greatly, but I have to be honest here, to admit using that would be like writing a biography about Patrick Henry and omitting the words "give me liberty" or "give me death." It's just like, so how do you leave that out?
In a way, I might be stretching here. In a way, it's kind of like stealing someone's comic book, filming it as a movie, and not putting the guy's name or title on it.
You see how it all comes around.
That's what he did.
If Alan Moore were to get into a small biplane and and get a skywriter to write "Do What Thou Wilt Shall Be the Whole of the Law" over Southampton or L.A. or anywhere, that would take a bit of the curse off it. Alan, if you can just take, a little bit of that money, it'll be fun. It'll be a magical adventure. We'll go together.
I've only read a little bit of Crowley.
Okay.
And I'm familiar with that phrase.
All right.
And that would be the first thing.
That's good news to me.
Okay. That'd be the first thing I would, equate to him. And they don't even bring that up.
He mentions Crowley all the time, but
he does not
say, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Those words appear.
Could that have anything to do with the stigma placed upon the comic medium?
I don't know
And
what it has to do.
did
Just
Prometheus
for the
come out before or after this Neoconicon or whatever?
Before,
It came out before?
I think.
Because he might have been trying to avoid the stigma of Fox News. Although it's Alan Moore. He doesn't give a shit about anything.
If you,
Or Honey Badger.
Lost Girls, for crying out loud. He did an erotica comic about underage girls.
Are they underage?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, they were like in their teens, so.
99 to
What a naughty.
2004.
But since we're speaking about,
This ran 99 to 2004.
Prometheus?
Okay.
I'm sorry to get Alp on a little bit of a tangent.
No, please. You're
but,
right.
Alan Moore.
Yeah.
Has everyone here read The Killing Joke?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I've gotten into a bit of a flame war online with a couple of people about this.
Okay.
Did Batman kill the Joker at the end?
According to Grant Morrison on Kevin Smith's Fat Man on Batman, according to him, yes. But then, when people started flaming and groaning, then he was like, or maybe not, what does it matter? Because that's perfect Grant Morrison. To make a declarative statement like that, yes, he kills him. And like everyone's like, no, he didn't because this, and this.
Batman
He's like,
kills the Joker in The Dark Knight.
what? Yeah, what does it matter?
We all read this before the age of the internet. So your own interpretation of the comic.
Well,
Go
that
ahead.
we can get into a
At the
whole debate about artist intention versus audience perception.
Oh boy.
It's like because when I heard that, I was like, well, okay, the guy who wrote it
Said yes.
says this.
Yeah.
You know, like people. It reminds me of an old Bloom County.
Yeah.
And it's a guy, and there's like an abstract painting, and the teacher said, well, you know, this is about the alienation of postmodern man in a post-civilized society, and blah 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 blah. Well, what's the title of this? And Miles says, The Pink Bunny. And the teacher says, well, obviously, this guy wouldn't know postmodern alienation if it bit him on the tuchus. Or some such words to that effect.
Okay, but like personally, like what did you think at the end of The Killing Joke?
I'm a big Alan Moore fan, but it's not one of the works that I keep on my shelf.
Okay.
I know that he did a great job on it, and he's received a lot of acclaim for it, but I don't have a real strong opinion on that subject.
Alan Moore? Was
That's
Alan Moore in that?
Yeah.
Alan Moore
Am I wrong?
is
Right.
such a gifted writer.
Couldn't tell you.
That, like,
I'm going to go to the computer because why is Grant Morrison giving his opinion about this if it was Alan Moore?
Just touch my conference over there.
No, I remember Grant Morrison had something to say about it, but no, like I've come to the head with a couple people online about the
now,
interpretation.
are
of the
they
end of the
are they
comic book.
offended? Does a flame war involve their taking issue with? Okay, Alan Moore comes in here for a one shot, kills the Joker, kills off a major character, thereby upsetting DC continuity.
No. The argument is they think that at the end of that particular comic, Batman kills the Joker,
Okay.
which I do not agree with at all.
Okay.
That would like completely go against everything that was said about the Batman.
It would be
Leading
a
up to that.
very interesting segue if there were follow-up about what Batman went through after actually having killed somebody intentionally.
You see,
But
that's one of the core-
because of the nature of it, because that wasn't there, the outrage is justified.
like one of the core things about Batman is he doesn't. Is it Alan Moore? Please.
It is Alan Moore.
Okay, thank you.
But why the fuck is Grant Morrison coming out and going, oh yeah, at the end, he's dead?
Entitled to his opinion, as are all of we.
No.
Well, no, the way he
whole-
said it, though, when I thought that was the creator of it,
Okay.
that gives it a little more,
Okay.
oomph.
Yeah.
The whole thing about it is it's not about how evil the Joker can get, because the Joker gets incredibly evil in that. Basically implied rape of Barbara Gordon.
Isn't that where she gets paralyzed, too?
Yeah, that's where she got
Okay.
paralyzed.
And became Oracle?
Which is like like DC writers are always very vague about what's canon and what's not.
Yeah.
After that comic, she was paralyzed for the rest of her run in the old DCU. The whole thing about that comic, it's not just about how evil and terrible the Joker can get. It's also about how Batman is willing to save everyone. And there's the conversation at the end of the comic book that he's having with the Joker about, like, trying to get him into therapy and trying to help him.
Mm-hmm.
And the Joker, like, has, like, a brief moment of clarity where he says, I appreciate it, but there's no going back at this point. And then he tells the joke. And people, like, some people online have interpreted, like, in the last panels of that comic, Batman kills him.
Because he knows that... Well, I can understand that point of view. Like, well, okay, in a moment of clarity, he said, I'm not going back.
Yep.
It's almost like Zod at the end of Man of Steel. No, I'm killing everyone. I'm killing everyone you know, everyone you ever loved. I'm destroying this planet. Sorry, you gotta die now. I can understand why people would think that. But considering the fact that the character was back...
Because no
soon.
comic book character that ever dies comes back
Exactly.
relatively soon.
Yeah.
Well,
Which
Gwen
you know,
Stacy, she stayed dead.
She came back. They had a clone.
Clones don't count.
Oh, okay.
Considering how misconstrued clones are in the comic book world, I think they do.
Considering how the Clone Wars is what... Well, not the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars. No, I'm not talking about Star Wars. I'm talking about Spider-Man. That is why I stopped reading comic books.
As
That's that whole fucking story.
to again go off as the maybe resident mystic here, you could almost say that the capacity for comic book heroes and villains to die and get resurrected so many times. How many times has Hawkeye died? It's almost like several times.
A couple.
Several times. I can think of at least 3. But this concept, it's because they are perennial archetypes, and we keep on resurrecting these heroes and villains because they're good, because we want to tell their stories time and time again. It's almost like the central myth of what we call the Osirian Aeon, or the death and rebirth of John Barleycorn, or Adonis, or
And as the resident materialist
Osiris.
in the room, I'd say most of it has to do with the fact that they write them into corners and have to start over, because it gets to a point like DC got into a kerfuffle a couple months ago because Batwoman has a girlfriend that she got engaged to. But those two characters are never going to get married. DC put their foot down, like, no, not get married. People were like, well, you're
Are
gay
they not
rights.
getting married for the same reason that Clark Kent and Lois Lane are never getting married? Because
Because it'll write them in a quarter.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
at first people were like, whoa,
or are they not getting married because that would give their approval to a certain lifestyle? That would
no,
offend
the
No,
first thing.
no,
The
they've
first
actually they've gone on the record
Okay.
stating that they're completely backing the writers in the fact that they're willing to promote alternative lifestyles.
Good.
But they're not going to let them get married because
Or
anytime
narrative reasons.
or straight characters.
because anytime any of the comic book heroes get married, it becomes a complete roadblock to the writing process.
Yeah.
Okay.
It creates this just narrow pathway that you are stuck on, and it prevents actual
I'm glad
development.
I'm glad that that's the reason they made that choice.
I mean, like,
that's good news to me.
So
there was this
Batwoman has
whole
to meet-
dispute with, like, the writer being gone and then the writer coming back and just all kinds of things went along with it. But in the end, that is what it amounted to. It was just because DC's choice was because of the limitations it would have put on the writing. And
Which now
initially the artist did not
writer and the
understand
artist
that.
left.
Nevertheless, I dare DC or Marvel, maybe they've already done it, to show a same-sex marriage within the pages of a comic book.
Oh, they've
North
done
Star.
it. Yeah.
North Star. That's
North
right,
Star.
North Star. Thank you, Tim. Yes.
No, all they have to do is have Batwoman meet Mephisto, and he can just erase the whole marriage after they do it.
See, that's exactly my point. I mean, although the metaphor of the rebirth, and the Osirian, and whatnot,
Yes,
But
yes.
unfortunately,
that's there
it's
too.
like,
But I think, for the most part, it's fuck. Now they're married.
That's
We
I don't
can't
know,
have
the thing-
we can't have a 32-page comic book about you forgot to get the milk. Goddamn!
yeah, but
Why don't you fuck me anymore?
the,
Goddamn it, Superman!
or South Park would put it. Why don't you scissor me anymore?
Because he's Superman and he cut her in half.
He would need a kryptonite condom, which would kill him.
Or his dick. Bumper.
Larry Niven's essay, Man of Steel, Woman of Kleenex, springs to mind.
Whoa!
Awesome.
I'm going to need some backstory on this. What?
Larry Niven, science fiction writer,
Okay.
submitted to some magazine at some point. It shows up in some of his collections of short stories. An essay about, Superman. Sure, Superman. Here's sort of a sci-fi concept. Man of Steel, Woman of Kleenex. Go ahead and look it up. It's clever. It's like, really? He can bend steel with his bare hands? I hate to see what he's going to do with Lois's vagina. My goodness, it's a very tender organ.
No. Okay,
He should be
It
going
goes
out
back
with
to
Wonder
Kevin
Woman.
Smith
Yeah.
because he basically got the Superman movie that they didn't film here in Pittsburgh with Nick Cage because of the thing in Mallrats where he talks about is that only Wonder Woman could do it. Now they're talking about retconning that Wonder Woman is actually descending from Kryptonians. That Supergirl, who's in the prequel comic, I don't know if you read that online.
Yeah.
You can find it online. It's pretty cool. It basically says, hundreds of thousands of years or whatever, 10,000 years before the present time.
Yeah.
Her ship crashes.
Okay.
And that's where he finds the suit.
Okay.
But it's from her house. And what they're saying is that the Kryptonians mated with humans, which then
Led to the Amazons?
became the Amazons. So so at least we know her vagina will not be destroyed, and that's what's important.
Yeah.
I could kind of see that, the need to explain the fact that there could be a warrior tribe that was pretty much just women.
Yeah.
The fact that women could be the ones to rape and pillage and plunder.
Well,
Oh
here's the
yeah,
thing,
they
though.
definitely have to be aliens.
Well, listen, in Wonder Woman,
What, they're willing to cut off their own breasts?
wait. In Wonder Woman, Diana is the first new Amazon in thousands of years. Now, if you look at within the movie universe, the DC movie universe, the cloning facilities they have, if they had like one little cloning machine, so no, listen, because that way you never die. You could just clone yourself over and over again. And if they went and bred, but then all of a sudden, these males are going around pretending to be gods, trying to run the world, this and that.
Yeah.
We're going to destroy them, and then we're just going to stay over here and wait for our people to find us. And then over 100,000 or 10,000, however many years, all of a sudden you make this own mythology. I think it could be really cool.
Yeah, and that's pretty much...
It is very clever.
That's the Thor solution to this same problem. It's like, how are we going to interject these supernatural, magical elements into the stories? Well, we already have these aliens with their alien technology and their alien powers. Why don't we just use them again? That's fine.
See, they could do that with Aquaman, too. Because they could say when there was the war between the males and the females, the males just ran away underwater.
Okay.
They're from
They can
Krypton.
survive.
They can
Yeah.
survive underwater, and then over 100,000 years, they turned into the Atlanteans.
Fair enough.
They could. I would totally be okay with.
I don't know. This is dangerously close to that theory of evolution.
Yeah, the jury is still out on that one. Let's.
Yeah.
But we will report the debate.
I've been
We wanna
watching
show
a lot
both
of
sides.
YouTube stuff.
Oh my god. Oh, so
Christopher
very much.
Hitchens on YouTube.
So
Richard
very
Dawkins.
much.
There's a great new, not new because I just found it. So obviously, I think it was done in 2003, but it was called a brief history of non-belief.
Yeah.
Or a history of non-belief, something like that. Find it on YouTube. It's a 3-part series that this British doctor goes through history, and his whole point is trying to figure out when exactly atheism started. Atheism as a codified point of view, as opposed to, and it goes from the first episode is all about the Greeks, as it should be, and then up through I think the 1500s in the second one, and then into modern atheism. It's an interesting thing. Check it out if you're interested in that kind of thing.
Very cool.
But yeah, Aquaman being Kryptonian, you could get basically anybody with superpowers that you can't explain scientifically. You could do that, and for a modern audience, it would get people into it, especially the non-nerds. Something they could wrap their head around instead of trying to spend 40 minutes trying to explain Aquaman and the backstory of Atlantis. If you could just say in 4 minutes, so that was there and that was there. Okay.
Really,
I don't know.
makes
I don't know. I
complete
might get
sense.
crucified for saying this, but in the course of my life, Superman was always one of just the. I don't know. I almost want to say banal. He was just one of the most.
No, you're not going to
banal
get crucified
stories.
for that. Lots
The
of people think
it was
that.
just. It was.
It's for kids, you know.
It was one of those things that actually put me off from the concept of comic books for a very long time in my life because I was just that was my concept of spandex.
Yeah.
And I still like.
All I gotta say is Crypto the Wonder Dog.
Batman's pretty awesome-ish.
Yeah.
Spider-Man,
Whoa,
yeah.
awesome-ish?
No, Spider-Man's pretty. I know, really.
Suplex.
No, for me, just any of those superheroes that prance around in
WWN.
spandex, there is something
Worldwide
about
Nerd
it that
Wrestling.
I can't get into. Batman has absolutely wonderful, deep stories.
Yeah.
I
He
love
has
that.
a pathos and he has
But
angst. And...
As just the actual Batman himself, the guy in that suit, I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's all pretty much branching from that whole Superman thing, the start of it all. The fact that that's what made it, part of American culture.
Yeah.
At the same time is exactly what alienated me from it for so long. And it's at the
He's
point,
a,
it's like,
he's
I
a
love...
dick. And most of I've seen a thing online like the 30 biggest dick things Superman has done.
Mm-hmm.
He was a real,
Most of
like, you
those-
talk about misogynism. He was not so much racist, but just like being a dick to Jimmy Olsen and making Lois cry. He makes
And-
Lois cry a lot.
I'm sorry, you want to talk
Most of
about
that was
misogynist? You want to talk about it being misogynistic? All you have to do is raise the fact that it's him in a suit, and the woman can't fucking figure it out when he's in a suit and glasses. It looks exactly the goddamn same as the guy in the spandex.
I gotta say two things real quick. Number one, they explained that in the late 70s in the Superman comics, that the way they explained it was he was able to vibrate his body
Yeah.
and make himself like, so you see like in the mirror like what people see, and it's like a skinny guy with a receding hairline and just kind of like a lorpy looking dude.
Yeah.
So they explain it. It's kind of a no prize, but they explain it.
They
and-
explain it well after feminism took hold.
And
It took them a little bit
well,
too
and
long
that
to
was a
retcon
big
it.
thing about Man of Steel, is some people were complaining about Lois Lane figuring it out too quick, and give it to Kevin Smith too, because he was the first one I heard go like, no, fuck you, you can't have both. Either she's a brilliant Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, or she's too dumb to figure out that this guy is Superman. You can't have both.
You want to talk about misogyny in comics? Wonder Woman, when she was first in the Justice League, was their goddamn secretary.
Wow.
That she was?
Yeah.
She was. And actually, next week, we're going to have a panel discussion about women in fandom. We're going to have a bunch of great guests for that.
Awesome.
But when it comes to Superman, he's a hard character to write for. He really is, and it's hard to do a good story with him. In my opinion, like, the most interesting story about him was when he died.
Yeah.
Right. Well, when you've got,
It's the one
like,
humanizing
literally
thing he ever
1,000
did. It's
issues.
Like, one human thing he ever did is die.
I mean,
One
He
interesting
was-
thing he ever did is die too.
And then he came back.
I just think that they don't assign very interesting writers to him.
Yeah. I love John Byrne, but even John Byrne's reboot of Superman is whatever.
But I mean, what do you do when it's all been done?
I know.
Well,
They
here's-
pretty much explored everything that his powers allow and his weaknesses allow, and it's all been done.
Superman is wholly American, because here's the thing. America, we hold on to dead art forms, and we hold on to them, and we don't let them die. But they're dead. Jazz, opera, poetry on the page, magazines, newspapers, Superman. Superman, he's done, he's over. There aren't going to be any new stories, because after 1,500 issues or whatever,
And
but
Flashpoint
we
Paradox
care.
got the last point.
But we care. We care about the character so much as a fandom and as a people. Because, when you ask a normal person, a normie, superhero, name one, Superman's going to come up first. Because that's the one everyone knows and knows the most about, even if as a kid and a teenager they beat up the kids who read comic books. They still know
Everyone knows Superman.
everything about the origins and story of Superman.
Superman. Who's his villain?
Lex Luthor.
What's his weakness?
Kryptonite.
Everyone
Magic.
freaking knows that. You can go up to a 3-year-old kid on a playground.
Hell.
They know that.
Yeah.
He made a Matchbox 20
And there's
song,
a reason.
goddammit.
There's a reason. Like, he really is.
But it would be interesting to see a really sophisticated, deep, introspective writer try to breathe new life into this thing that I think everybody at this table agrees is mind out.
Some
Yeah,
people,
no.
some people
I
have
mean,
tried.
I honestly feel like the last fresh point that was made about him was made in Flashpoint Paradox.
Flashpoint
Yes.
Paradox.
Did you see that?
It's delightful.
I'm shaking my head now.
It's absolutely delightful, but
It's what caused the New 52.
Okay.
yeah,
Freaking-
Flash goes forces the world to go back in time so he can save his mother from being murdered,
Uh-huh.
and therefore, doesn't have the motivation to actually become the Flash. All kinds of things happen.
Oh, I see.
Doesn't have
It's-
his accident.
Bruce Wayne is the one who's murdered, so his father becomes the
Butterfly
Batman
effect ripples out.
to avenge
Yeah.
him. Superman is apprehended
read
by
some
the
comics.
government. Superman is apprehended by the government. They realize that he gets his strength from the sun, so he's kept in a cell with no windows.
Interesting.
So he's this emaciated, just absolutely broken, no
And then trying
no
to
sense
clone
of
him and
morality, never had any kind of influence to teach
Okay.
him right from wrong or good from bad, no hope, nothing like that. All it is just he's empty.
Yeah.
And that is the last time I saw anything fresh, and I can't see anything else happening.
Just the other night, I watched something called the All-Star Superman, and the story of it, and I only caught the second half. But from what I got was
A cartoon
he
or
was
something?
Yeah.
it was an animated movie.
Nice.
I don't know if it was actually in the
it's
comics,
worth the watch. It's
but
definitely worth the
he is dying. His body is falling apart, and in it, Lex Luthor gets a serum that he made. Because he made a serum so Lois could experience what he experienced for a day.
Okay.
So they fly up to the moon, and it's all like, he realizes that he can see every spectrum of radio waves.
Yeah.
And Lex Luthor was wanted to kill Superman, and he stole it, and then he got it, and he still ends up getting executed at the end. Spoilers. Supposedly, maybe not. But at the end of it, Superman flies into the sun because, what was it? Something was
It's
trying to
been a
turn into
while
a blue sun
Yeah.
and to eat it.
Uh-huh.
So he went up and with his dying renewed the sun.
Okay.
And at the end, Lex Luthor had his DNA. So it's like, here, you need a healthy female ovum, but here...
One of the reasons that he's so successful is also one of the reasons why he's so simplistic and therefore sort of unsatisfying to us more sophisticated postmodern readers. But Superman is a wonderfully solar myth. He's this figure that, as a hermetic magician, you just have to sort of attribute him and all of his powers to the sun. He has this limitless source of radiation and energy and enthusiasm and strength. He's got
And that definitely speaks to people who don't
laser
understand.
bolts shooting off. He's just this embodiment of just like radiant generosity and power, but also of like enlightenment and whatever. I think each culture will redefine this Ubermensch in their own way. And
Be kind to one another, right?
yeah, you can criticize. We can say, well, the Superman of the 60s or 70s was misogynistic or whatever, was for every reason unsatisfying. Every culture will project their own ideals onto this wonderful, like, sort of
exactly. Definitely.
Yeah,
that's why.
And when you put it that way, it
this
actually speaks
Hyperion.
volumes.
Yeah.
Because
that's
there
why,
are so many people who don't
that's why
understand the
he-
roots to sun worship.
That's why he actually renounces his American citizenship.
Yeah.
in the early
he's transcending
2000s.
nationality. He's no
He's
longer
like
truth and
ah,
justice.
Guantanamo Bay, I'm out.
Yeah, so am I. I am working every day, all day, in my straight job to get this country back to its wholesome ideals of literally this stuff that Superman ostensibly stands up for, and that's truth and justice. And this bullshit in Guantanamo Bay has got to stop. I'm glad to see they're starting to extradite some of those people out of there so that they can receive their human rights, get an actual trial, face their accusers, etc. All right, I'm done.
He's also a Christ-like figure in many ways.
Please continue.
Including his origin. Sent by his father to our world, otherworldly, stands up for, is raised by a very wholesome couple who teach him value, and is pretty much untouchable. And if you've ever seen, like, the first two Superman movies.
Well, the other
Richard
guy
Donner
got touched
films.
a lot. I think it's a wooden kind of thing.
So,
But, with
What?
the first two Donner films, the Richard Donner films, great Superman story. Him giving up his power.
Yeah,
Well,
and Man of Steel
Temptation of Christ.
does very much play up the whole, like, him in front of stained glass windows and stuff. You
what
know?
would be really interesting, if we're going to go down this path, I think it would be interesting to one of the issues that I do take with Superman as he is presented to us as a mythic cultural figure is that he does occupy a great deal of his time saving people. What might be a more helpful strategy would be allowing people to save themselves or inspiring them perhaps to save themselves.
Well, so if
I love that moment of silence that I just brought about.
does that mean that Batman is Spinoza?
In what way is Batman Spinoza?
I don't know. I was just trying to make a joke that made me sound literate. And obviously, Aquaman is David Hume. And
Well-
if you can't see that, you're a fucking idiot.
All right. you know,
Clearly,
this is an interesting
Batman is
conversation.
Noah.
We've all just said that, like, we are a little bit dissatisfied with Superman because he's so simplistic. Well, I'm trying to put a little bit of depth.
No,
in
I
this conversation.
think
I know.
some authors have
So
put
am
some
I.
depth
All right.
into him.
Okay.
I think some authors have put some depth into him. I
Yeah.
just think,
Look,
in general, like, I think with the new 52, they're actually doing a lot more interesting things with him now than they ever have before.
Okay, that's good news.
I
I
think
haven't
they're-
read those comics.
Yeah, I haven't even
for,
given it a
and
shot.
for the
just
record,
because I'm so
Spinoza was
disillusioned
one of
with
the
it.
first openly humanist writers
Okay.
that basically said we can do it ourselves without having to deal with a
Yeah.
deity or a supernatural intervention.
Okay.
That we can just do it ourselves, which I think
Yeah,
Batman kind of embodies.
You know, if Superman stands for anything as a solar myth, you know, I would like to think that he inspires us. You know, is he actually going out there and
And-
saving us when we fuck up? I don't, you know.
and inspiring kids, because like you said, it is for kids.
Yeah.
Mostly, this entire run has been, and in that way, maybe like little kids, they read Superman, and they get into a situation of doing something that's right or wrong. I'm doing air quotes, and maybe they go, "Gee, what would Superman do
Yeah.
in this situation?"
Really interesting story. A while back, a child, a 3-year-old child, his grandmother was having a heart attack, and he called 911 himself and got the paramedics to come. And he's like, when asked about it, he said, "It's what Batman would do."
What's what Batman would do?
And, you know, we were speaking earlier about, you know, how you were saying how you don't really look to comic books for something profound.
Well,
I think there's a lot of things profound to be found.
I would
in
like to.
comic
I
books.
would like to see. I think we would all like to see more depth in them. I think that here we are. None of us.
We're
12 years
also
old anymore.
we're also adults.
Yeah, we are.
And it also gets to a point that, yes, please, for a little kid, filling that little cup of inspiration
Yeah.
is easy. As you get older, like they say, like in Dogma, the glass gets bigger.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we need more intellectual things. We need more subtext. We need something richer
Comics-
and deeper.
There is so much room in comics. Comics does not just have to be this one thing. There's plenty of room for both Superman, this rather two-dimensional guy, and Neonomicon with the rape of the creature from the Black Lagoon.
You know, it's, you know,
Yeah, we're
comic
reading
books,
Not
this
for
out.
kids. For
comic
adults.
books
Not
are
for
everything
kids.
from Superman to...
Consider seriously whether or not you want your kids to be reading.
So would you say this
There's
is
different
NC-17 or...
You
Oh,
know,
Neonomicon? Definitely.
in comics, there is only one naughty label you can get, and that's for mature readers. So when you see that label,
I've read some...
I've
I've read
seen
for-
some things
for
that are
mature
for mature
readers
readers
where-
that are simply because,
Yeah.
you know, it
There's
just so
tits.
yeah. I'm actually specifically thinking of something right now, Dragon Guard.
Dragon Guard.
Marvel.
Okay.
Actually, a really interesting story. Dragons are basically desecrating the lands. There's a veil of the aura around the dragon, expands as the dragon gains power, causes, you know, decay of the flesh, basically zombies in a medieval setting, and the only people immune to it are virgins.
Okay.
No,
What's that about?
no, it's
It's the
basically
plot of every slasher
no,
movie.
it's these pure women.
How about that?
No, it's these pure women are trained knights. They're the only ones who are capable of going up against the dragon.
So you
And
show
it
some
play- it
virgin
plays-
titties and forget it.
No, it plays on the idea that, you know, the fairer sex, the ones who are generally weaker, are actually the only ones who have the power and must work to maintain this power. And it's actually, you know, as much of a trope as it is of having the virgin and having that be, oh my god, lust, 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 it actually plays into the story very well in the sense that this is one of the only times I wasn't offended by it. However, there is definitely gratuitous titty involved.
And just because of that, or character says fuck, they put that on. But what you're saying is this one, no. If there was a X-rated, an X-rated,
Yeah, you know, we all make choices as consumers, and we should try to make as intelligent choices in our pop culture consumption as we possibly can. That's one of the things I like about your podcast, Tim, is that you help people to make good decisions. I loved your conversation about Ender's Game and about Duck Dynasty. I think that's really helpful. You know, we can, as consumers, we can really do a lot to influence our, you know, both our political bodies and our and the way that corporations conduct themselves as well. In some ways, as powerful, if not more powerful now than these governments and these nation states. So I think it's really, really great that you can get out there. For instance, to return to the subject of Alan Moore, I have watched just about every comic book, every movie adapted from an Alan Moore comic book. But
how many have there been?
Well, let's see.
Constantine?
Constantine is not actually an Alan Moore. It's an Alan Moore character, but the comic books themselves were things that I don't believe that Alan Moore worked on. They were Garth Ennis and.
But still, that counts because he created the character.
I think he did create the character. I'm pretty sure. Okay. But to continue, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, great graphic novel, terrible movie.
I like it.
The reason my website exists.
Okay.
I like it as a bad movie.
Yeah. To continue, Watchmen. Now I have seen all of these movies, but I'm not going to go to the theater and
pay $10.
Pay money to see From Hell or League of Extraordinary Gentlemen or even The Watchmen because Alan Moore got ripped off. Basically, by working for the big two, your characters and basically your intellectual property is now their property. And, you know, some artists are cool with that. Stan Lee famously is like, I don't need money and I don't need points on Spider-Man. Or I guess maybe he has come around and recently, you know, he said, no, I think I want some money.
Well, he's made cameos in all the damn movies.
It's true. So if he opposes it, you know, it certainly goes on to add to the legend that is Stan Lee, and deservedly so. But Alan Moore, I really feel, has not gotten the respect and the credit for these movies. They mention him in the...
So you're saying he didn't get points on any of these movies?
Yeah, no,
They
pretty much
gave
anybody
him
that
a
came
lo-
around
almost
before
none at all.
anybody that
created
came
him?
around before Image pretty
Correct.
much got fucked.
Yeah. Now, Alan Moore, I think to quote him from other, you know, he might feel differently now, but I have heard Alan Moore say, I don't care about Hollywood. I'm not a movie guy. I'm not trying to make movies. I don't want to have anything to do with Hollywood. I don't want to have anything to do with movies. I make comics. I'm great at making comic books. And Alan Moore, yes, you are. You really are. And he's fine. You know, he's living in Southampton, you know, having a great time, practicing magic, worshiping Glycon, or invoking Glycon, which is his own personal deity. It's really he really does practice magic, which is more than I can say about Neil Gaiman or other people. Perhaps Grant Morrison does also himself practice magic. So Alan Moore,
from what I've heard, yes,
is having a great time, having a great life. He doesn't even feel the need to do cons anymore.
Right?
You know, he's just like, dude, I'm good. You know, I'm good. So, but at the same time, I feel that, you know, to go and watch The Watchmen is such a sour experience for me because it's such a great graphic novel. And really, you want to talk about, you know, Shia LaBeouf going panel by panel for the storyboard of his film. Holy shit, does Watchmen the movie go literally panel by panel from that graphic novel. In some cases, it's just like, wow, it's like, are you going to make your own film, or are you just going to do Alan Moore's thing? That's okay, And the way
Well,
he
with
does
a much better ending.
Well, but
I've got to say though, because
I'm almost inclined to agree.
I've got to say, because I only
was a
have
very-
passing knowledge of the actual graphic novel.
Yeah.
Tim made me watch the movie.
Yeah.
It's a very fucking good movie if you walk into it with no preconceptions.
Okay, glad to hear it. That's good news to me.
Now,
And yeah,
we were
Kyle,
talking
I'm with you, man. I do. That's a much neater and more economic, right?
the ending was actually a big fuck you to DC Comics,
Oh, was
because apparently he was not pleased with them at the time, and the squid was just thrown in at the last second.
Is that right?
In fact, the artist for
I'm supposed to be the Alan Moore guy.
the artist for like the beginning of the series didn't do like the last few issues or the last issue. I'm not sure which. I have to look it up. But whenever he heard about the squid, he was like, "What the fuck? That doesn't make any sense."
Alan Moore said that? He didn't want this one?
No, not Alan Moore, the artist.
Oh, the artist.
I don't
Okay.
remember his name.
Yeah, what is
but,
that? Gibbons.
But like Alan Moore just like threw that in at the last second, and it's the plot of a goddamn Outer Limits episode.
It is.
And I think the film did it like we talked about this on the first episode. I think the ending of the film was better than the ending of the comic book.
Yeah.
And I liked the
which is why
Watchmen film.
I very much enjoy watching The Watchmen on one level, but nevertheless, I'm not going to pay money even for a DVD. I will steal The Watchmen. I own a stolen copy. DC Comics got zero money, and whatever the
my take on the Watchmen movie is yes, it's pretty much frame for frame, but that movie was necessary to make the Marvel universe happen.
Really.
I believe
The
that
Marvel
when you
universe.
when you talk about the significance of things and historical things and things connected to the other things, that movie convinced studios that you could make a big epic with lots of special effects for under $200 million. Okay. Because before that movie came out, every time they would look at it, it's like, it's going to cost $350 million to make because the computers aren't that good yet, and then so we're going to have to hire all these people to do it, and shit. Even if it makes $500 million worldwide, we're not going to be able to make enough money. But even though that movie lost money, it proved that you could do it for under $200 million.
And boy, the craftsmanship of that film is amazing. I hate hating that film, but I do hate it.
But you understand my point, though.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So your opinions of like From Hell?
Well, again,
I liked From Hell,
Alan
too.
Moore did not get the credit nor the money that I think that he deserves, the rewards. He might not care, but I care.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, wait. Okay. So
When he-
right. So he doesn't care. He thought he got enough money. It's almost like when the creator says, "Well, actually, it's about this," and everybody else goes, "No, it's not. It's about this."
Every
Clockwork
kid
Orange?
who gets into
Stanley Kubrick?
Okay,
Anybody?
yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
every kid who gets into comics because he loves comics and then wants to go out and say, "Wow, I'm going to make myself an artist because I want to be John Byrne. I want to be Walter Simonson. I'm going to write comics. I want to be Alan Moore. These are people who inspire me." And then they grow up and they actually follow out that dream. How many of us actually do that? And then discover that the industry of comics, the bar is set so low in terms of accountability, recognition of talent, rewarding hard work. And that, they are taking this art form that I love so much that here I am, a grown man still talking about it, that it's really kind of tragic. So I want to see people like Alan Moore rewarded better, treated better, at least to be given the option of like, Alan Moore, would you like some money? No, I'd like to take my share of it and donate it to charity.
Compared to
Give
the
it to Ben
people,
Barnett.
compared to the people that created Superman, he's doing okay.
Alan Moore?
It's getting better.
It is
It's
getting
getting better, and
It's
in
getting
every
better,
creative
and-
endeavor, you have that problem, though.
Yeah.
To
It's
varying
getting
degrees.
it's getting better, and the thing is, there are so many imprints, so many labels, there are so many independent comics that, independent comic publishers that failed. For every 10 of those, there's one that actually made it somewhere.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are actually rewarding the people who are doing amazing, innovative things.
I think you're right. It's getting better.
So there are pathways for it.
I'd love to hear what
be that
Mikey
way.
Wood has to say on this subject as an independent guy who actually works very hard at comics and has more titles out there than I'll probably ever have.
So basically
let's
what
talk
we're
about
saying
Game
is-
of Thrones.
Okay.
I want to talk
Nice
about
segue
Rob
there, too.
Liefeld being castrated, but okay.
Yo, me too.
Okay.
Okay, so we all agree on that. I don't know why I agree, but I agree. Before we started recording, you were talking about how you're not a big fan of the Dynamite comics.
Is anybody? I don't know.
Damsels.
Damsels?
Yeah, I mean, they have a little bit of a trope going on where they're very much TNA when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Sign me up.
But Damsels is actually like I'm just obsessed with fairy tales in general.
Nice.
And Damsels is the female leads from fairy tales.
Okay.
Not being the damsel in distress anymore.
They're
actually the ones driving the action.
A woman girt with sword. Awesome.
Pretty much.
Yeah, oh, sure.
And TNA.
Well, you were talking
Something
about
for the whole family.
Game of Thrones.
I can't help it. There's a part of me that absolutely adores TNA just because it's like, oh my god, this is so unnecessary. Yeah. This is great.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, basically, the 1990s on all of the things. We were talking about Game of Thrones. They're doing a new graphic novel series, or just a comic series.
They are.
And it's supposed to be different from the books, and a little bit different from the TV show?
Closer to the books than the TV shows are, but...
so it's not going to suck.
Ostensibly, it's sort of its own thing, with its own continuity. One thing that I am impressed by the Game of Thrones, having read as little of it as I have, is that it seems to be a very large body of work. So whoever it is, these people, I think they made the wrong choices when it comes to talent. But the people that they have gotten to do work on this are working their little fingers to the bone on this graphic novel. And the inking and the penciling and the coloring, although I think are wrong for this franchise, I do appreciate the amount of work that's gone in there. Were it anything but Game of Thrones, it might be cool.
Is this out yet, or is this coming?
No, it's your audio tech here has it right there. That's it. It's over there.
Oh,
yeah. Hello.
So I could actually read it.
Would you like to look at it now?
Okay.
It does exist.
I thought he was making this shit up as he went along.
I would have.
And that's my job.
Tell me who is the penciler and inker on that? Julia, perhaps you know.
Pencil and inker.
Let's see. The cover has art accredited to Tommy Patterson.
Interior art, please. I didn't really look at the cover.
Yeah. Oh no, that's
whoever the artist is. Not knowing anything about him, he seems to be like his style would lend itself better to tights and fights, spandex superheroes than a franchise which is all about period. It might be a fantasy Middle Ages, but it's ostensibly about the Renaissance and the Middle Ages.
Yeah, no, art by Tommy Patterson, colors by Ivan Nunes? N-U-N-E-S?
Okay.
Nunes.
Yeah, they're both very good at what they do, but they are, like, I would have preferred a Craig P. Russell or Barry Windsor-Smith. Or other artists that have demonstrated that they understand the look and feel of that period in the way that this guy doesn't. Like his Cold Ones, his White Walkers, which ostensibly, for those of you who are not familiar with the books, I'm not terribly familiar with them either, but I do understand that the White Walkers are different in the books than they are in the TV show. Nevertheless, I don't know exactly how they're described in the books. But there you are, Tim. That's what I'm talking about right there. That White Walker.
So much how they're described in the books.
Well, to me, that looks like a Marvel supervillain.
And that's the thing. I have very little knowledge of the show. Okay. I have knowledge of the books before I got to the graphic novel. And
you're satisfied with these graphic novels?
I loved it.
Okay.
I absolutely loved it. And that's the thing. The source.
One thing to
they
say,
both worked off of the same source material.
Dark Dragonlance.
The TV show used the books as their source material.
That's what I got out of it.
And then the graphic novel.
Okay.
Ignored the TV show. Worked simply from the books.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah,
and I'm very, very satisfied with the artwork.
That's awesome.
The lighting in the different settings works so well. There's different lighting for Winterfell, for
it's not that you've
King's
watched. It's not that you haven't watched any of the HBO series.
0.
Really?
Oh, really?
What do you live in the fucking...
I watched the opening credits and got distracted by Crochet and my cats, to be perfectly honest.
Crochet.
Okay.
That's why I said this big thing, because she's just the books.
I'm just the books in the graphic novel.
You've read the books.
You've read the books, and you're just
I watched the first 2 seasons of the show.
I have such a hard time getting into any...
and I know absolutely nothing.
I have such a hard time getting into a movie or a television show that's adapted from books. once I've actually read them.
Okay. Well, you're
Like, I have
you're
gone
in
out of
for
my
a
way
real
to.
treat.
I have
True
gone
Blood.
out of my way to not read books
Uh-huh.
because I want to see a movie.
You
Okay.
read True Blood?
That's cool. Good
She's read True Blood.
Oh,
I
you're more
watched the
disciplined than
series.
I am in that regard because, well, if you live at my house, literally anybody who's in there, they grab you by your lapels, stuff you into an easy chair, sit you down, wire your eyelids open, and force you to watch Game of Thrones. Like,
I watched the first 2 seasons.
Never seen nothing.
yeah.
I watched the first 2 seasons.
my
and
mind-
I'm pissed.
Okay.
My mind is so much like herding cats that would not make me watch it.
All right. Cool. But your question about Game of Thrones, Tim, or you're just bringing up, hey, Game of Thrones.
Well, Game of Thrones, the art, what I was going to say is it looks like Dragonlance.
Yeah.
From back in
yeah,
the
I
late
was
80s,
going-
early 90s.
I
A little
wish-
bit darker in tone,
Yeah.
but the artwork reminds me a lot of
Mr. Martin, please, if you're listening, please check out my Facebook, Benjamin Zeus Barnett with 2 T's. And, you know, I really feel that I could breathe a real medieval Renaissance feel to this beautiful franchise that you have created. And, you know, the guys that you have working for you down there at Dynamite, I'm not hating. They're really good. But they're miscast. That's the wrong person for the wrong job. They should be working on other Dynamite titles. If Dynamite has a science fiction or a superhero title, that's great. And that's my whole opinion. I'm gonna go get some coffee.
George Martin, if you're listening, fuck you.
George Martin, if you're listening, I have no opinion, but I'm very happy that you've created such a successful franchise that helps nerd culture advance. Because every time you have a success, that allows somebody else to believe that they can have a success and will make more quality properties in the future. So, good on you.
And for me, George Martin, if you're listening, not enough people read the goddamn foreword. You sat down and you actually took the time to write it out and explain it in the first collected edition. This is not the book. This is a graphic novel. This is a different media. You have different tools to work with, and therefore the end product is going to be different. More people need to fucking get that point.
Yeah.
Also, more wieners, please.
More wieners.
Anyway.
Wieners.
Wiener.
George Martin, if you're listening, I'd also like to thank you for all the stuff that you did before you broke out and made it big, and you know, those of us who have appreciated all your very hard work throughout the years. Like, I remember you, George, from the Wild Card series, which is something that I've dabbled in as well with my crap, and that's he's trying to do superheroes, tights and fights, in the form of a novel, and he has this whole universe that is tights and fights, and it's a shared universe. You guys remember the shared universe novels? Like, I think Dragonlance was one of them.
Yes.
But like, it's a bunch of it's just this property, and they will get different writers to contribute to this one continuity, but in a series of novels. And it was really, really cool. Some of them are great. You know, you have this diversity of styles, and some of them are pure escapism. Some of them have statements to say, political or whatever. So, and George R.R. Martin, I'm sure, was a contributor to these, but was primarily like the editor of the Wild Card stuff. I remember this from way back in the day. I know that George has also done all kinds of other stuff too. So it's very encouraging to me as kind of a hasn't been, you know, a guy who's just, you know, a geek, lives in Pittsburgh.
Trying to be.
Yeah, drawing his comics, writing his fan fiction, you know, and just kind of enjoying all of this. It's very encouraging to me to see here's a guy who works hard, and you know, later on, if you keep on hammering away at it, you know, he's now getting the respect that he deserves for all of his awesome stuff, which has never been on the national eye the way that George R.R. Martin is now. That we're singing his Wiener song here on the Nerd Exchange.
How could you not? If we could have gotten the rights, it would have been our theme song. But we couldn't. What's our time at?
2:07.
2:07. That sounds like a good time to wrap up.
That sounds like a good wrap. Talked about almost everything. Ooh,
Was there something else you wanted to bring up?
I wanted to bring up the fact that Neil Gaiman also, like, I was going to come in here and bitch about Neil Gaiman made his career off of Thelemites and Crowley and gave so little back. But at least there is a point where Neil Gaiman, or at least somebody associated with Neil Gaiman, gets out there and states a very paraphrased version of the Law of Thelema, while lampooning or presenting his Burgess character, which is his kind of more or less Crowley, British Victorian era occultist with a bald head, but presented in a way that is really making him out to be a blackmailer, charlatan, and what some people might call a black magician or a sorcerer or a nefarious, evil, mustache-twirling guy with a black hat. Yeah, so that happened. Nevertheless, Neil Gaiman, you did inspire our imaginations, and nobody is really looking to Neil Gaiman for legitimate theological writing, certainly, or philosophical writing. Right. That's not really what he's pursuing there. I really rankled at Neil Gaiman's American Gods as well, because I really...
Now, here's a quick question.
Yes.
Before you go on. Somebody who wasn't already familiar with Crowley wouldn't get the Crowley connection, do you think?
It's...
Do you think somebody who, like, knew nothing about occultism, knew nothing about magic, you know...
Let me say that Aleister Crowley has two reputations. He has one reputation that's been presented in the yellow journalism of its day, which are basically tabloids, which have accused him of doing all this unfounded, ridiculous nonsense to a degree that, and, you know, to a certain degree, Crowley himself used that tabloid version of himself to draw attention to himself and his real message. And, you know, say, hey, you know, Aleister Crowley, I'm the wickedest man in America. Here, read my book. 90% of the people that he said that to whom he gave that book, wouldn't be able to understand that book. Right. But he's not writing for them. He's using this yellow journalism and this reputation that he has as a way of drawing attention of everybody, so that the 10% of the people who are sophisticated enough to understand what he really has to say will at least know that he's out there. And it worked to the degree that I'm still talking about him today. And you know, there are still people that and even Alan Moore is writing comic books about this guy. As important as Promethea is in the comic book of Promethea, Aleister Crowley is perhaps the second most important character. Okay. It just so happens that one is real, the other one is somebody that Alan Moore made up.
I mean, just to put it into perspective, I went to a Catholic school, and so by the time I was in 3rd grade, I was researching the religions of the world to figure out what I actually believed. Wicca was one of the ones that there was a ton of shit at that point, because we had just gotten the internet in my house. Yeah. And there was a ton of shit about that, and everything that I took issue with about Wicca, the way I took issue with Christianity, I have learned later in my life the things that I have just pieced together as what actually speaks to my soul. Yeah. A lot of it falls in line with what Crowley taught.
Yeah. Well, Gardner and Alexander were both students of his at some point, weren't they?
In varying degrees. Let's just say that
no, I'm saying everywhere
they were in the same circle.
It was for me everywhere where I dissented with both Christianity and Wicca, which are in this world, even though they're not really considered to be polar opposites. Everything where I dissented with both of them, the conclusions I came to are what fell in line with Crowley's teaching.
Okay, so that is to say that you agreed with certain points of Crowley and Thelema. Okay.
I mean, technically, I agree with certain points of everything. That's why eclectic always comes first whenever I describe anything about my beliefs.
When Tim and I have, as young college students, have these deep philosophical discussions, Tim is kind of the same way. He says a lot of the same things to me, and that's like he's
stoned.
Takes yeah, no doubt. A lot of that too is, as do I. I think we all do, and that's awesome. But yeah, to put things into perspective, the Wiccan Reed, "And it harm none, do what thou wilt," is, I will assert, a sort of, first of all, there would not have been any such thing had it not been for Aleister Crowley's "do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law."
Right. They just made it a little bit more palatable.
A little bit more palatable for mainstream, but if that...
we're not the black witches, we're not the... We're not the putting curses on people witches.
Yeah. I could go on and on and on about Thelema and this rather absurd Manichaean concept of duality that Christians and Muslims have kind of inherited by way of Zoroastrianism, the worship of Ahura Mazda and the acknowledgement of Ahriman as these rather Platonic concepts of absolute good and absolute evil, which...
Absolute good and absolute evil leaves no room for duality. True duality.
Well, no, because then it's just a giant game of Chinese checkers.
Yeah. Practically speaking, I don't really believe in absolute good or absolute evil.
Why are you looking at me like that, Kyle?
That is to say that...
I'm turned on.
That's an extra suplex for me, folks. Oh, yeah.
But the fun, squishy kind.
But, I would... Anybody who wants to contact me about Thelema or wants to take me to task about any Wiccans that want to say, you're full of shit, Ben Barnett, feel free to check me out. Let's go using Facebook. Benjamin Zeus Barnett with 2 T's on the Facebook. And I'm happy, but I didn't come here to just preach about Thelema. I came here to talk about pop culture and comic books and how that relates to Thelema a little bit, but I don't want to just go off on this soapbox.
Well, it's important because that's one thing that, when you suggested this topic, I was like, oh, that's cool because you've got like the things you're talking about, this Promethea and whatnot, that actually incorporate what I say real, but I put it in quotes, real practices of magic, as opposed to like, say, Doctor Strange, where there's a little tiny bit of that.
I would love to see I'm volunteering for this too, so Marvel, if you're listening, RV Arada, whoever's running things over at Disney, I'm volunteering right now. It's like it would be wonderful to see a Doctor Strange as a comic or as a movie or anything done as somebody who's actually knows something about magic as it is really practiced by hermetic magicians, practitioners of actual magic, of the Crowley variety or of the Ben Barnett variety, and somebody who is acquainted with at least or to have Alan Moore, who knows a thing or two about
right.
I consider him to be a student of the great work, if not specifically an initiate per se. That remains to be seen, and that might be to you listeners a sort of a fine definition, but he's certainly a practicing magician of some stripe. It would be wonderful to see what Alan Moore, who knows a thing about real fucking magic, writing Doctor Strange. Just throwing it out there, Orb of Augmato, the Crimson Bands of Cyttorak, Cloak of Levitation. Okay, sure, but with the same kind of sophistication as he, or at least experience that he brought to his Promethea. Just throwing it out there. It would be really interesting to see. And if Alan Moore doesn't want to do it, tell you what, give me a buzz. I'm happy to step in and fill it.
Benjamin Zeus Barnett with 2 T's.
With 2 T's.
Marvel.
Take note. And happy to step in and help in any way I can. I know a thing or two. And if you're wondering about my artwork, I've posted a couple of little bits on the Nerd Exchange here. That one Wolvie and Hulk. Anybody see that? You guys? Really? Yeah. Okay, so if
I actually on the
I still
door
love the tailgating on Tatooine.
Oh, well, thank you.
On the door of my man-child cave is a great thing that Ben did at a con at one time,
which is also on the Nerd Exchange website. So if you're saying this Ben Barnett doesn't know a fucking thing about what he's talking about with art, you can check
post more stuff,
okay.
And then hopefully we're gonna take the computer with us. So going up to Erie to visit my dad, gonna interview him about what I was like as a young nerd. So that'll be an interesting bonus pod.
That's awesome.
But hopefully we'll be able to get this out.
Tim's just finding this out now, but I'm completely pirating the computer so I can upload this shit while we're on the Greyhound.
All right.
Yeah. So in the next couple of days, post a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
And get with Ben. You still doing cons? Every once in a while?
Cons are cool. I've had a great time at the cons. I met great artists. I got to meet George Perez, one of my all-time heroes.
Oh, nice.
I met Mikey Wood at a con. I've met some great people at a con. But ultimately, if you're a writer or an artist, cons are good. You should definitely check out the cons. But honestly, if your stuff should be on the internet where people can find it, the con as a way of advancing your career, or if you really want people to know your name and get out there, that's an important step. But boy, it's all about having the Tumblr account. It's all about having your stuff out there on the net. Cons are cool.
Well, what's
cons
your Tumblr?
Cons are where you network.
You don't have a Tumblr?
I
Okay.
really use my Facebook at this point.
But yeah, the cons are where you network.
Yeah.
And
So
the internet is where you actually get the audience.
Yeah, cons are
follow him on the Facebook. I think there's a follow button now, where even if you're not actually friends with somebody, you can actually follow their posts.
I don't really. Yeah, I believe that you're right.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear the episode with your father, because whenever I picture you as younger, I always picture, 3-year-old, 5-year-old with the shaved head and the beard still. We've talked about this before.
Somewhere in this house, there was a box of photos from when I was younger, and I.
That growth of shit that's on Timmy's face. Just imagine that on his head. It's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
I've never known it.
I had the
Did it have
Spock
the
bowl
same
cut
point?
from the time I was 2 until the time I was about 14 years old.
And then you had a mullet.
He
Yes.
remembers
It wasn't a mullet.
when I actually
Wait, you just
had,
said yes, you agreed.
80s metal hair.
Wow. Okay.
Well, but I had long, kind of mullety hair when
A bit at one time. Yeah, so did I, so.
It was a mullet.
it was not a mullet.
It was a mullet.
It was feathered back with a duck bill on the back. It was a Ralph Macchio cut. You don't know from knowing.
Honey, you had a mullet, and so did my mother.
See, I had the King Diamond Widow's teeth.
Oh, all right.
Her hair's
So anyway, check us out at nerdexchange.net. We're going to have more content up there in the next couple of weeks. My top 10s with little essays about why I think the characters are significant. Of course, join Nerd Exchange in Western Pennsylvania. Check out the Nerd Exchange podcast page where we post all the things. My name's Timothy J. Sedgwick if you want to check me out on Facebook.
Got one last thing I want to kind of announce. Sorry. End of the show.
We have an outro. It'll be fine.
I got my YouTube channel back.
Oh, yeah!
Yay!
Okay.
And-
You're allowed to annoy me with that because that's awesome.
Okay, and the Phantom Ghouls House of Eldritch Horror, my old horror movie show where I host a horror movie kind of cheesily, kind of like Chili Billy Cardilli, is coming back.
Awesome.
Gonna be working on
so
that
delightful.
in the next few weeks.
You should let me come on as Dr. Awkward.
Cool.
I'll wear a lab
Dr.
coat and
Awkward?
nothing
I'm
Okay.
on
else.
as Master of the Mystic Arts.
That'd be great. Only if you do a full Doctor Strange
We
with
gotta
a
get you a
pencil thin
really
mustache.
I kind of
Follow.
enjoyed it when during the pre-show before the recording started. You said Mr. of the Mastic Arts.
Mister of the Mastic Arts. I think that's not
Of
original.
the
but-
Master Class.
We'll get
I
a
like
Sharpie
that
and
version
we'll do
better.
the pencil thin mustache. And we'll do a Liberace kind of style, Doctor Strange kind of outfit. That'd be
awesome.
great.
Put a couple streaks in your hair.
See,
You see, there's this wonderful mythology already associated with this material. Just I'm happy to breathe a little bit of reality into this mythology. You're
Nerd
welcome.
Exchange. Reality doesn't exist.
hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
If we don't consider this reality, then our entire lives are lies.
You're welcome, America.
I'm sorry, at this point, if this isn't reality, the only reality I've had today is goddamn bagels.
Okay, so anyway, well, you got your thing, there's your thing, okay. And also, you can check me out. I'm opening for Eugene Merman at the Rex on Valentine's Day. You can get your tickets now at rextheater.com. It's going to be funny, I guess. I have new jokes, and if they don't work, I can always take my pants off. Bye-bye!
Hey, folks, thanks again for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. It's at Nerd Exchange. Like us on Facebook, the Nerd Exchange Podcast. And also join the group, Nerd Exchange of Western Pennsylvania. And if you have an idea for a segment, thinks we got something wrong, or just want to suggest a guest, it's the Nerd Exchange at gmail.com. That's the Nerd Exchange, one big long word, at gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. Don't forget, live what you love and learn something new every day.
As I sit in the back of my crown, bitches get down like bitches get down. Motherfuck you, Mr. Underground. As I sit in the back of my crown, bitches get down like bitches get down. Motherfuck you, Mr. Underground. This is the mother best song ever. If I have words, it would be even better. This is a jam to make your day sunny.